Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. In the Marine, the lightsaber I invented / Kaido. Chapter 1. Sea Circle Calendar 1520. 7 Warlords of the Sea. Crocodile, one of the 3 forces of the Grand Line, was defeated by Luffy, a straw hat from East Blue with a reward of 30 million. This humiliating failure has disgraced the world government. As Marine investigates Alabasta, he discovers that Crocodile will stop at nothing to gain the country. In order to cover up the truth, Marine and the world government had to take credit for shichibukai on Marine Colonel Smoker. At this time, Marineford in the first half of the Grand Line. Naval Headquarters, Senior Generals Conference. As a member of shichibukai, losing to a newcomer from East Blue like this makes the face of the world government go. Syllable. Marine Marshal Buddha Sengoku slapped his hands on the table and roared angrily. The people below were silent, and no one dared to speak at this time. And Crocodile, as a member of the 7 Warlords of the Sea, you want to become a member of the world government. Quote. Sengoku clenched his fists and gritted his teeth hatefully. The old man knows that these pirates have long had bad intentions when they joined 7 Warlords of the Sea. Quote. If Crocodile was in front of him at this time, everyone present believed that Sengoku would not hesitate to beat him up. It's just a pirate. Who do you think you are? Marshal. Smoker is still waiting for a reply. Someone plucked up the courage to say. Fortunately, Colonel Smoker was on the scene and Sir Crocodile was arrested, which did not allow the situation to spiral out of control and arrest Crocodile for trying to subvert Alabasta. Sengoku squinted his eyes slightly, and said coldly, if you let this sea know that the 7 Warlords of the Sea under the world government actually intends to seek a government alliance, what will the world think? Quote. Cover up the truth anyway, especially the truth that Straw Hat Luffy defeated Crocodile. Otherwise, shichibukai, an institution that deters the sea, will have its reputation and combat effectiveness questioned, thereby weakening the prestige of the world government. But with Smoker's personality, I'm afraid he won't accept such an outcome. Marine Admiral Kizaru, who had been holding Rulang's legs and getting a manicure, pouted and reminded. Smoker has always been unsocial and acts unruly, so he is known as the Mad Dog of Marine. So even if the strength is very strong, he is still a captain. Kizaru and Smoker are both Zephyr students and know the junior. Tell him, this is my order, Sengoku said in a deep voice. An order directly from the marshal. If Smoker wants to keep his Marine identity, he has to accept it. Also, the 7 Warlords of the Sea position is now vacant and someone must replace it to maintain the 7 Warlords of the Sea as a deterrent to those pirates. Quote. At this time, the Marine Grand Staff Suru Vice Admiral next to him slowly spoke. As one of the 3 forces balancing the sea, the world government cannot afford to lose the fighting power of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. I'm afraid this matter cannot be decided here, Kizaru said, pointing to the top of his head. This overhead naturally does not mean the house, but the meaning of the above. Shrine. Only the 5 elders can decide Shichibukai's affairs. The Holy Land has ordered to summon the members of the 7 Warlords of the Sea to discuss this matter, and the problem is that there is another trouble, Straw Hat Luffy. As Sengoku said this, he looked at an old white-haired man sitting in the corner. Garp. Even in such a serious meeting, this Marine influence Garp, who has a high prestige in Marine, is eating senbei at this time. No one would have a problem with the Marine hero's actions, either. When he heard Sengoku mention Luffy's name, Garp didn't react. Straw Hat Kid, Monkey D. Luffy has been making a fuss at East Blue in just a few months. 30 million bounty no longer matches his strength. I think Straw Hat Luffy's bounty should rise to 100 million Bailey. Quote. Suru Vice Admiral spoke at this time, holding his chin with both hands and smiling lightly. These words shocked everyone. From 30 million to 100 million Bailey, this span is very rare. 100 million Bailey means that he is already a sea thief. Ha ha ha, it's worthy of being a man from the monkey family. Biting off the senbei with a click, Garp laughed as he carried the snack bag. This guy always makes trouble regardless of the occasion. You still say, it's all the grandson of yours and it will definitely be a big trouble in the future. I see that 100 million Baileys or less. Sengoku yelled unceremoniously at Garp. My husband has dedicated his life to Marine. Where there is time to educate future generations. Quote. Garp said with his nostrils clasped in disapproval. Seeing this guy's nonchalant attitude, Sengoku's forehead jumped, and it took a lot of will to suppress his anger. Seeing the two people arguing together, the rest of the people also helplessly supported their foreheads. It was already strange. Bang! But just then, the door to the conference room was opened. "Marshal, over there in the Ministry of Science." A signal soldier broke into the venue, but before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Sengoku, who had not yet subsided his anger. "Don't you see an important meeting going on here? Not even a single report." Quote, "Marshal, it is an order given by you personally, and you will be notified as soon as there is news." Quote. The communications soldier looked aggrieved. "My order. Do you want to notify me whenever you want?" Quote. Hearing this, Sengoku was very confused. Just a month ago. The signal soldier was also speechless. Hearsay. The scowl on Sengoku's face gradually subsided, his brows couldn't help but wrinkle, and his gaze behind the round-framed lenses flashed a little abruptly. It turned out, a month ago, a young researcher in the scientific research department reported his new invention directly to Sengoku, Marine Marshal. It is a simple flying machine named Bamboo Dragonfly. The inventor was unknown before this and was a young man named Roy. After seeing the actual product of the Bamboo Dragonfly, Sengoku was shocked. He never expected that such a gadget could allow people to escape the shackles of gravity and soar freely into the sky. Soon, the Marine Marshal immediately realized that this was an invention that changed Marine's future major military landscape. It can play a great role in the existing reconnaissance, monitoring and other military uses in the sea. If it is assembled on a large scale, those evil forces that use the terrain will also be invisible. Thinking of this layer, Sengoku immediately ordered that the development of bamboo dragonflies be resource-oriented, and several other projects were stopped for this purpose. Let Colonel Roy do his best to mass-produce bamboo dragonflies. Is there a problem with production? Thinking of this, Sengoku's expression became rare nervous, and his tone was unprecedentedly nervous. Seeing this, everyone in the conference room widened their eyes and looked puzzled. Even Suru Vice Admiral and Kizaru frowned. Garp also looked sideways, forgot to eat the senbei he picked up, and looked at Sengoku with a shocked expression. Nope. The Ministry of Scientific Research said that the first batch of bamboo dragonflies, 100 products have been completed. Quote. The signal soldier said. Hearing this, the people around were very puzzled. What is this bamboo dragonfly? Looking at Sengoku again, he was already smiling. Good, good, good. This is really big news. Quote. Everyone was even more puzzled by what news could make Sengoku laugh so happily. Have you forgotten about Crocodile? In addition, Colonel Roy said that another of his studies is also finished. The signal soldier continued. Is it a lightsaber? Sengoku was even more overjoyed this time, and the joy on his face could not be concealed at all. A month ago, when the Ministry of Scientific Research approved the Bamboo Dragonfly project, Colonel Roy introduced his new research idea to Sengoku. Lightsaber. According to Roy, this is a disruptive weapon. Sengoku also happily allocated 100 million Bailey research and development funds. But I didn't expect that after only a month, the lightsaber had already appeared. What a value for this money. Yes, Colonel Roy said he was ready. The signal soldier nodded. Hurry up and bring him to the meeting room. I'm going to see the lightsaber in action. Quote. Sengoku can't wait. After the signal soldier left, the conference room was also lively. What is a lightsaber? Garp couldn't help but ask. He still knows Lao Jiu very well. Even if Roger turned himself in, he was never so excited, let alone so easily gaff. I'm afraid I'll have to wait for Colonel Roy to show you. Sengoku said with a mysterious smile. Seeing Sengoku's appearance, everyone understood that a lightsaber was probably not a simple thing. At this time at the Scientific Research Institute of the Naval Headquarters. It's been more than half a year since I came to this world. In an office, Roy in a white coat lifted Erlang's legs and his face was full of embarrassment. He was playing with a metal rod in his hand, and his eyes were full of memories. That's right, he's a crosser. The soul comes from the blue star of the 21st century. Originally, Roy was just an inconspicuous researcher in the Marine Research Department, with the rank of captain. The captain of the Scientific Research Department is not worth much, unlike the captain who is sent abroad, at least he can command some soldiers. But fortunately, after crossing over, he awakened the dimensional technology system. The first technology to unlock is the bamboo dragonfly. But to develop a bamboo dragonfly, it takes 1,000,000 Bailey's funds. Here we have to mention the allocation of R&D funds in the current Marine Scientific Research Department. Since Vegapunk, a cross-generational scientist, joined Marine, almost 90% of the money has been taken by Vegapunk's team. Human gigantic experiment, ancestry factor, artificial devil fruit. Give objects the devil fruit ability. ... All of this is the result of Vegapunk's research, and it is also very satisfactory to the world government. It is worthy of being called a scientist who has surpassed human wisdom for 500 years. But under Vegapunk's huge aura is a shame for the rest of Marine's research department. Every capable researcher faces two choices. The first is to join Vegapunk's team as part of its research team and work on Vegapunk's genius ideas. However, for many people, doing so is tantamount to making them give up everything they have. So many people chose the second path. That is to leave Marine. Only then will they have the opportunity to research topics that interest them. According to what Roy knows, quite a few people have chosen to do this. There are also very few who have opened the third way. That's lying flat. Roy had belonged to the lying flat family before this, and the scientific research funds allocated to him were pitiful. Little research can be done. In order to scrape together enough to develop the bamboo dragonfly's 1,000,000 Baileys, he saved up for months. When the finished bamboo dragonfly appears, Roy finds an opportunity to stop Sengoku, who is coming to the Holy Land for a meeting. The moment he saw the bamboo dragonfly, Sengoku immediately realized the great value it contained. Such a gadget, easy to store, powerful, simple to operate, and also has the ability to fly. Just by fitting on the head, it is capable of flying continuously for 8 hours at a speed of 80 kilometers. It is no exaggeration to say that in a world where there are many islands and the sea occupies 90% of the area, there are almost countless scenes that can be used. After receiving assurances from Roy that he could mass-produce the bamboo dragonfly, Sengoku gave an order to the scientific research department on the spot. Roy increased his budget and kept the production of bamboo dragonflies running smoothly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Roy introduced his second research result, Lightsaber, to Sengoku. The dimensional technology system can unlock the next technology after developing one technology, but only mass production of 100 can be developed. A cross-arrow weapon, Roy describes the lightsaber this way. Because of the guarantee of the bamboo dragonfly, Sengoku waved his hand after hearing this, and directly issued a special research and development fund of 100 million Bailey. Even if the development of the lightsaber is not smooth and slow, the bamboo dragonfly alone has exceeded this value. In order to facilitate Roy's actions, Sengoku also promoted Roy to the rank of colonel. Promoted without any substantial merit, it is also a minority in Marine. It is enough to prove Sengoku's affirmation of Roy's research and development capabilities. Now Roy didn't disappoint Sengoku either, and developed the lightsaber in just 1 month. The metal stick he was playing with in his hand was a sample. Host: Roy. Rank: Colonel. Dao Power: 3000. Hockey. Observation Hockey Introductory. Armament Hockey Introductory. Physical Skills. Marine 6 Styles Introductory. Technology. Bamboo Dragonfly mass-produced lightsaber not mass-produced. Unlock. Lightsaber goes into mass production to unlock the next technology. ... Looking at the simple personal panel, Roy was full of emotion. Throwing away dimensional system technology, this attribute panel is just a general level. The 6 styles are all average levels, and they are not prominent in Marine. I'm not even good at focusing on the direction of my focus, so it's fitting to describe it as mediocre. Although I can use hockey, I am at an entry level. If you put it in New World, there are many people at your level. Fortunately, he now masters dimensional system technology. He is looking forward to Marine executives' approval for mass production lightsabers, when he can unlock the third technology. Every time a technology starts mass production, 10 consecutive lotteries can be conducted. Today, all of Roy's hockey is won through a lottery. Otherwise, with his previous strength, it would be slightly stronger than ordinary soldiers. Tap tap. Suddenly, hurried footsteps came. Colonel. The Marshal summons you. Want to see your latest research lightsaber? Quote. The voice of a communicator came from the door of the office. This sentence interrupted Roy's memories, and he slowly turned around. Yes, it seems that the Marshal can't wait either, then let's go. Roy straightened his white coat and stood up with a smile on his lips. After all, in Roy's description, lightsabers are far superior to all close-range weapons. Sengoku knows exactly what that means. After pinning the stick to his waist, Roy stepped out of the room. The Scientific Research Department, in fact, and the Naval headquarters, were based on the island of Marineford. From here, it only takes 10 minutes to reach the Marine building. Colonel, the Marshal wants to see the results of your research. Quote. At this time, seeing Roy come out, the communications soldier hesitated, and finally opened his mouth to remind. After all, the so-called subversive weapons are what the Marshal wants to see. Otherwise, once the Marshal saw it, he thought that his order was not conveyed in place. That's it. In response, Roy patted the stick on his waist and said that this was his own research. A lightsaber that Marshal Sengoku is looking forward to. That's it. Just this broken iron rod. Is it worth the Marshal to specially allocate 100 million Baileys? This money is also too good to earn. The signal soldier wanted to complain like this, but because Roy's rank was higher than his own. And the Marshal over there was very anxious, and he could only bite the bullet and take Roy with him. The magnificent building of the Naval headquarters. Walking on the square of the Marine headquarters building, Roy was amazed no matter how many times he saw it. Known as the de facto strongest fortress, it has guarded the Red Line for hundreds of years. The magnificent and handsome walls seem to reach into the sky, giving people infinite awe. Such an epic and magnificent building will be severely damaged by Summit War in the future. It's a huge pity. The arrival of Summit War also means the beginning of an era of more chaos. Chaos is not a beautiful word for ordinary people in this world. A grain of sand in the times, falling on the heads of ordinary people is a big mountain. Since Roy has crossed over, he naturally wants to make some changes in his heart. And with dimensional technology, he also has this ability and confidence. Marshal, Colonel Roy is here. Quote. When he heard these words, Roy woke up from his thoughts and found that he had unknowingly arrived at the door of the conference room at Marine headquarters. Squeak. The door to the meeting room was opened. The originally noisy atmosphere cooled down in an instant, and the eyes of many Marine bigwigs were focused on Roy. Wearing a white coat, he looks young, compared to the monsters in this world who are several meters at every turn. Roy is like a normal person. Well, an ordinary person with a handsome appearance, a warm temperament, and an elegant atmosphere all over his body. Roy was a little embarrassed to feel the center of attention, and it was the first time he had seen so many Marine executives gathered here. Hello sir, I'm Roy from the Science R&D department. Sorting out his emotions, Roy politely greeted Sengoku and other Marine bigwigs. Sengoku's expectant face also cooled down after seeing that Roy didn't seem to be carrying the lightsaber. Immediately, a dead look looked at the signal soldier. Why wasn't Colonel Roy reminded to carry a lightsaber? Sengoku's gaze sank, and his tone became a little more stern. Although Sengoku has only met Roy once, Roy has already impressed Sengoku. Not the kind of person who will lie about the results of research, it must be that the communication soldiers did not convey it in place. The signal soldier was very wronged and was trying to explain. Marshal, my latest research lightsaber is here. Quote. Without waiting for the signal soldier to answer, Roy took out the metal stick and handed it over. Seeing this metal stick, the conference room instantly caused a shock, and many people were whispering to express doubt. This is the weapon produced by the Ministry of Scientific Research, across the ages. Hee. The squirrel laughed. It seems that the Marshal was also hoodwinked. Burning Mountain took a sip of his cigar. If this thing is considered a cross-era weapon, it can only cross the Stone Age. Gumir also shook his head. Since Sengoku is still here, these sounds are not loud. After all, just now, Sengoku was very confident in praising this weapon called lightsaber. Those who did not speak, but also looked at the stick with doubtful eyes. No matter how you look at it, this stick is mediocre. Filled with curiosity and expectation, Sengoku took the stick and looked at it in his hand. Gradually, the look on his face also became very ugly. This stick is very easy to pick up, and the material is far beyond ordinary steel. The middle is hollow, so it is not heavy, and it is only more than 20 centimeters. But 100 million Bailey's funds were invested in research and development, and the result came out with such a thing. Sengoku's heart is dripping blood. After all, Roy is still too young and likes to talk about it. This thing is at most a material of some use, and there is no talk of cross-arrow weapons. But for bamboo dragonfly's sake, Sengoku decided not to embarrass Roy at the meeting. Genius can't be every idea across the ages, there are always some bad ideas. This shortcoming, even Pang Jabik is no exception. So, Sengoku put the stick behind his desk and led the topic to the bamboo dragonfly. By the way, I heard that you have already created 100 bamboo dragonflies first. Is the effect the same as the one I showed me before? Quote, the battery life and speed are exactly the same, and there is no problem with ensuring quality. Roy is confident about this. As long as the technology is unlocked, Roy will be able to manufacture. He was rewarded with an assistant when awakening the system, the Jarvis AI system. After the bamboo dragonflies were developed, they were all fully automated by Jarvis, and the first batch was finally manufactured after a month. The results of the produced items are exactly the same and will not be limited by material problems. All materials for technology products can find substitutes in this world. The core of bamboo dragonfly's technology lies in anti-gravity devices and extremely small miniaturized batteries. The anti-gravity device can form an anti-gravity field around the human body, which is the secret of the bamboo dragonfly that can make people fly. Very good. You've worked hard this time. Also pay attention to rest. Quote. Sengoku nodded, acknowledging Roy's credit. But his appearance made Roy a little strange. Why did this marine marshal not seem to be interested in lightsabers? You know, compared to the military use changes brought by bamboo dragonflies. Roy is confident that the lightsaber will only make a bigger difference, especially in military prowess. Also, Sengoku asked himself to come with a lightsaber, wasn't it just to show off? Thinking of this, Roy helplessly asked, Marshal, don't you experiment with lightsabers? Quote. He's still waiting here, trying to get Sengoku to continue using his authority grants. Without money, there are no materials. Sengoku looked embarrassed, and said in his heart why this young man was so ignorant. I have already tried to cover it up for you here, but you mention it yourself. Ha ha ha, what power can that stick have? Can you smash people's heads with a stick? Garp was already laughing and poking through the layer of window paper. When the words fell, the entire conference room laughed. Sengoku glared angrily at Garp. The guy had long seen that he was covering up, but still didn't give himself face. Thinking about whether to find an excuse to spend Garp on the next meeting. What I took out just now is just the hilt of the sword, and the lightsaber will not appear until the light is turned on. Roy then knew that there had been a misunderstanding, so he explained with a serious face. The laughter in the conference room stopped, and everyone suddenly realized. No wonder you dare to take a stick, it turns out that there is still a mystery here. Roy, let's take a look at the power of this lightsaber. Sengoku's freshly cooled heart immediately boiled. Roy urged Roy to quickly perform for everyone. The lightsaber is powerful, and it's too dangerous to perform here. Roy shook his head. Empty the martial arts training ground. Let's go to the martial arts training ground, Sengoku said immediately. Those martial generals who were originally suspicious were also aroused by curiosity and followed one after another. I want to see if this lightsaber is really that worth looking forward to. After arriving at the martial arts training ground, Roy has already taken the hilt of the sword from Sengoku. Under everyone's gaze, Roy pressed the hilt switch. The next moment, airplanes. The 3-foot-long red energy sword radiance suddenly ejected from the hole in the metal handle. The extremely strong magnetic strength and energy fluctuations made everyone next to them startled. The aura of destruction contained in it is even more chilling. And if you look closely, this lightsaber is not static, and the photons on it have been moving at a very high speed. But because of the constraint of some kind of magnetic field, it eventually forms the shape of a sword blade. This is a lightsaber. Kizaru's eyes widened, his lewd face showed shock, and his mouth couldn't be closed completely. However, in his memory, he did not cooperate with Roy in this research. And the lightsaber made by this photon cannot be said to be very similar to the photon sword created by Kizaru with the fruit ability. But from the outside, it looks exactly the same. If there is a difference, the photons of the photon sword are all condensed by Kizaru, and the photons are completely static, so they have the same sharpness as a long sword. As for the lightsaber cast by Roy in front of him, the photons that make up the shape of the blade are operating with some unpredictable rules. One is absolutely still, one is in motion. That's the difference between the two. But this subtle difference can only be detected because Kizaru has the ability to sparkling fruit. The rest, including Sengoku, knew the power of Kizaru's photon sword. Could it be that the Ministry of Scientific Research can now make sparkling fruit's abilities into weapons? Although this is similar to Kizaru Admiral's fruit ability, this is a completely different thing, and this lightsaber is more powerful. Roy saw everyone's doubts and explained. A lightsaber is not a simple laser, but a cloud of plasma. It was bound by the magnetic field of the hilt of the sword to become the shape of the sword. More powerful, that's an overstatement. Quote, of course, everyone did not believe Roy's words, and Vice Admiral Doberman stood up and said, the multiple scars on his face made him look particularly vicious. After all, how strong Kizaru's photon sword is. The original history, the incident of Sabayati Archipelago, can be proved by the easy resistance to the slash of One Piece's right arm, Pluton Rayleigh. Many of the Marine bigwigs present were skeptical of Roy's statement. A lightsaber can cut through almost anything, I'm just telling the truth. In this regard, Roy smiled lightly and said confidently, the best way to deal with a lightsaber is another lightsaber. This energy weapon in the form of a long sword is not comparable to Kizaru's photon sword. That's you don't know anything about Haki's understanding. Doberman did not smile, directly pulled out the long sword on his waist, and said coldly, in this sea, Haki can determine the strength of weapons. Quote, airplanes. The flowing gas bursts from the palm. The next moment, the long sword in Doberman's hand was already covered with a layer of black armament Haki. If even my long sword is cut continuously, then your so-called invention will be meaningless. When the words fell, all the generals present nodded secretly. And with their knowledge of Doberman, this guy was able to attach Haki to the longsword in his hand so easily, and they could see that Berman's strength had become stronger again. Roy was also impressed by the Doberman Vice Admiral. In the plot, Doberman is also involved in the Enies Lobby Buster call in the 5 headquarters Vice Admiral. When Summit War Redhead appears to propose an armistice, Doberman is the first to stand up and lash out at the Redhead, not giving the 4 emperors the slightest face. It was Marine who intervened to lash out at Vice Admiral of the 4 emperors. The strength is beyond doubt. Armament Haki. Sensing that Doberman's long sword was wrapped around Haki, Roy's brow couldn't help but frown slightly. He wasn't sure if the lightsaber would be able to cut off Haki either. Doberman's words are not without reason. In this world, the strength of Haki is the power of the weapon, and the powerful Haki, if attached to a grass, can exert terrifying destructive power. But that's about it. For the lightsaber he developed, Roy is actually quite confident. To put it simply, it is not an exaggeration to break everything. The only suspense is whether armament Haki can withstand the lightsaber. Haha, my knife is a heavy blade known as one of the 50 good knives. Very rare and precious. I don't know how many times stronger than your bells and whistles. Quote. Seeing Roy's expression, Doberman smiled confidently. Good knife 50 work. Is that unusual? Quote. Roy couldn't help but say. Hearing this, everyone looked at Roy like a fool. The only weapons that can be called famous swords today are those made by famous craftsmen. Among them, the representatives are Supreme Great Quick Dao 12 works, Great Quick Dao 21 works, and Good Knife 50 works. If even the heavy blade of one of the 50 good knives is not a famous knife, then there are few famous knives in the world. There are so many swordsmen in this sea that there are no 10,000 who can use famous swords. Some people even doubted the power of the lightsaber. How dare a person who does not know about famous knives come to develop weapons? In fact, this is a misunderstanding of Roy. He is not ignorant of famous knives. It's just that as a traverser, he has heard too many famous knives, so he doesn't feel anything about the Good Knife 50 work. What? You look down on my knife? Quote. Doberman's expression sank, and his already fierce face was full of anger at this time. The sword is the life of a swordsman. The dignity of a swordsman. If you cherish your knife so much, then it's better to change it. What if it is cut off by me? Roy seriously proposed that this was an inexplicable confidence in the lightsaber, or system. Cut. This is even more humiliating for Doberman. Marshal, if that guy uses a so-called lightsaber to cut my heavy blade and damages himself, you can't blame me. Doberman ignored Roy and had nothing to say to the guy who didn't know knives. He turned to look at Sengoku behind him. After all, the research and development of that lightsaber is as high as 100 million Baileys, and it is better to make this kind of thing clear in advance. Well, if the lightsaber is damaged, you are not responsible. Sengoku nodded slightly. Sengoku still trusts Roy a lot, but also recognizes Doberman's strength. Technology versus hockey. Let's look at it. Come on. Doberman held the knife in both hands and posed. The eyes that look at Roy are full of confidence and pride. He has this strength and confidence. Especially seeing Roy holding a sword in one hand, without any swordsman skills to speak of, and not being a swordsman at first glance, this made Doberman laugh even more. Boy, is that how you use your sword? It seems that you not only do not understand hockey, but also with a sword. Quote, even ordinary people understand the truth, that is, the sword in both hands exerts more force. Roy actually experimented with one hand, which was simply hilarious. I'm not good at kendo, but I know what technology is. Roy said seriously. As soon as the words fell, he held his lightsaber and swung it directly towards Doberman's longsword. It looks fluttery and has no strength. But the next moment, click, the heavy blade of one of the 50 good knives. It broke in the middle with a sound, and the first half of the blade fell to the ground, making a clanging sound. Quiet. The martial arts training field fell into a strange atmosphere in an instant. Everyone looked at the broken blade in amazement, and their eyes were round. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Roy was very calm, and this result was expected. If a lightsaber doesn't even have this power, it doesn't deserve to be called a cross-era weapon. Doberman held his sword, and his eyes almost popped out. How can it be? He couldn't feel Roy's slash. The famous knife he holds in his hand is like a piece of thin paper, and Roy's lightsaber is a sharp cold. You know, in addition to the sturdiness of the famous knife. Doberman also added armament hockey. Even if the world's #1 sword hero Hawkeye arrives, it can't be so easy, right? How can it still be cut? He couldn't believe it at all. As a matter of fact, don't say it's Doberman. The high-level Marine bosses present were all stunned. As bystanders, they watched carefully throughout the process, and when the lightsaber touched the famous knife, there was not even the slightest hindrance. This, really fake, not a dream, right? Even the super bigwigs such as Sengoku, Kizaru, and Garp were directly stunned in place. It took a long time before the martial arts practice ground was in commotion. Colonel Roy's strength doesn't seem to be strong, but he easily cut off the knife attached to hockey. What does that mean? I admit that I underestimated this knife before. I was wrong. Roy hasn't used his full strength yet. It's hard to imagine. Even someone like Roy who doesn't know swordsmanship at all can exert such a powerful lightsaber. What if it's a sword master? For a while, everyone who had a strong posture just now suddenly felt unsettled. His gaze focused on the lightsaber again, and at this time, the longsword in the form of a photon that felt bound by a mysterious magnetic field became even more unfathomable. How exactly does this lightsaber work? At this time, Kizaru asked. Kizaru had to admit that the lightsaber was indeed more powerful than his own photon sword. So he wanted to know the principle of this lightsaber, and maybe he could learn something from it. This is inconvenient. Roy shook his head. Oops, I'm talking too much. Kizaru touched his head and suddenly realized. How can such scientific secrets be easily leaked? Or wait for the private self to use Admiral's identity to find an opportunity to ask? No one would think that Admiral was a spy. Roy, where exactly is the limit of the power of this lightsaber? Quote. Sengoku took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down, and asked with an expectant look in his eyes. It easily cuts off Doberman's famous knife, unable to let Sengoku see the true power of the lightsaber. I don't know. Roy shook his head slightly. In fact, when cutting off the famous knife covered by Haki just now, Roy felt a slight obstruction. This kind of obstruction did not occur before during the Roy trial. It seems that Haki is capable of blocking lightsabers. It's just that Doberman's Haki isn't enough. Easy. Let the old man give it a try. Quote. At this moment, a hearty voice shouted. Everyone looked over and couldn't help but widen their eyes. Marine heroes Garp. Hey, are you going to make a move? Sengoku was flabbergasted. Although Garp is now old, his combat effectiveness is still not to be underestimated. In particular, Haki's cultivation has reached the point of pure green. Haha, this kind of opportunity will not be missed. Just to see the power of young people. Quote. Garp's gaze towards Roy was also full of appreciation. For Garp and Sengoku's age, the favorite thing to see is marine successors. This may be why Sengoku is willing to promote Roy. An old bone still has to be tossed, then you can try it. But remember not to hurt Roy. Sengoku reminded. Roy is now a valuable talent at marine and should be taken seriously. How much marine the old man has trained, of course, there is a sense of proportion. Garp stepped over to Roy and stared at the lightsaber in Roy's hand. After so many years across the sea, he had never seen such a strange weapon, and he wanted to try it. Then you have to use your full strength, Roy said in a deep voice. The way to hold the sword also became hands, showing respect for Garp. I'm not going to be careless, you have to get ready. Garp smiled. The fist has a layer of invisible Haki attached to it. Garp the fist. It was this pair of fists that made the pirates of the past fearful. Even Roger, the One Piece who is known to the world and dominates the Grand Line, has been chased by this old man in a situation where there is no way to heaven and no way to hell. This is enough to prove how terrifying Garp's strength is. Offended, Roy was also preoccupied and slashed down. Next second, the sound of Jingo, reverberated, and the piercing made everyone's scalp numb. I saw the fists and swords colliding, and sparks splashed. Garp's fist was not cut off by the lightsaber, which made many people breathe a sigh of relief. If a marine hero is seriously injured because of this, it is a loss for marine. It seems that the power of the lightsaber is not as exaggerated as everyone imagined. Garp's armament Haki is able to block lightsaber slashes. You are the first to break my fist for so many years. However, at this time, Garp raised his fist and said slowly. The skin was cut through a hole, and blood flowed. This scene shocked everyone. With Roy's combat power, he can actually hurt Garp with a lightsaber. Everyone was shocked. If I had this lightsaber, my strength would have risen by at least 2 notches. 2 grades are conservative. I am optimistic that you can be on an equal footing with Hawkeye. If Marine can equip such weapons, then the pirates of New World will be wiped out by us. That's right. Where else are the 4 emperors? It's not a threat from Marine at all. Quote. Some people even shouted the slogan of destroying the 4 emperors. 4 emperors' power isn't just about their superpower. There is also influence on New World, as well as numerous territories and subordinates. Even if they still can't defeat the 4 emperors, they can eradicate the wings of the 4 emperors. Even Sengoku was thrilled, and images of marine invincibility came to mind. In the past 2 years, Sengoku has gradually felt overwhelmed and has plans to retire. But if this weapon appears that can change the pattern of the world, then Sengoku does not mind fighting for a few more years. The research cost of this lightsaber is very high. At this time, Suru Vice Admiral's cold words instantly doused everyone's enthusiasm. Yes, weapons like this heaven-defying will definitely not be cheap. My heavy blades were all purchased for 50 million Baileys. Doberman said even more distressedly. Now these 50 million have been wiped out and turned into 2 pieces of scrap iron. I'm afraid it's not easy for this lightsaber to be mass-produced. Sengoku also frowned. If it's just a high price, Sengoku is acceptable. Just equip Marine's elite troops. Create a lightsaber unit that can turn the tide of battle at critical moments. Sengoku is worried about mass production. Once it is said that the lightsaber cannot be mass-produced, I am afraid that the lightsaber cannot be equipped in the hands of soldiers. It can only be given to those powerful generals. It takes 20 million Baileys to mass-produce one, but you have to make 100 every time. Roy said as he turned off his lightsaber. Although the lightsaber does not lose any energy when it is not touched. But such a powerful weapon cannot always be shown to people. Roy's words raised everyone's already extinguished enthusiasm again. They looked at the metal stick in Roy's hand, and their eyes were red. Such a powerful weapon only needs 20 million Baileys. They would rather multiply several times to buy. If it weren't for the marshal here, they might have snatched it directly. Really fake. Such a powerful weapon, even if it is more money, it can be accepted. As he spoke, Marine Marshal Sengoku, the smokeless Roy, took the lightsaber from his hand. Of course, Sengoku understood the minds of this group of people and wanted to test the power of the lightsaber. But this is a sample, and Sengoku is counting on it for money. A lightsaber is 20 million, then the funds needed for mass production of 100 or 2 billion. I don't know why Roy has to make 100 at a time, but Sengoku definitely tries to meet Roy's requirements. That's not a small amount, and Sengoku needs to go to the Holy Land to find 5 elders for approval. The meeting is over, you all go to your own business, I'm going to the Holy Land. Sengoku said to the crowd. The signal soldier next to him said that he would immediately go to prepare the warship. It's too slow, I have special tools. Sengoku laughed and pulled out a palm-sized thing from his pocket. Exactly, the bamboo dragonfly. This is a sample made by Roy at the time, and it has been claimed by Sengoku for a long time. After installing the bamboo dragonfly overhead, Sengoku slowly flew in front of everyone's eyes. What is it? Garp was stunned. I've never heard Sengoku say this. Also, Roy's research is called bamboo dragonflies. Haha, envious. This is the prerogative of the marshal. Do you regret giving up the promotion that year? Sengoku teased. Abuse of power for personal gain. Garp roared with red eyes. You're jealous. Better than Garp, it also makes Sengoku feel very comfortable. Watching Sengoku leave quickly, everyone now saw the magic of the bamboo dragonfly. With this simple flying machine, there is almost no place that cannot be visited. For a time, one by one, in front of outsiders, the majestic and cold powerhouses all looked at Roy in unison. You cut off my knife. Can you leave a copy for me after the lightsaber is mass-produced? Doberman took his severed knife and came to Roy and said in a consultative tone. At the same time, the fierce face that could have scared the crying child unexpectedly showed a rare smile that seemed gentle to him. Well, I thought you volunteered. Roy remembers what Doberman said earlier. That is whether the cutting of the lightsaber is responsible. Sengoku said no. Now that Doberman's own knife is broken, he shouldn't have come to Roy's. Where do I know the power of a lightsaber? Doberman wanted to cry without tears. Knowing that the lightsaber was so powerful, he changed to an ordinary knife. No, it should be that he does not stand up at all. A man should accept the consequences. At this time, Garp also came to Roy laughing. Doberman lowered his head when he heard this. If he hadn't been shocked by the power of the lightsaber, then Doberman wouldn't have kept his voice so low. Boy, do you still have that bamboo dragonfly that Sengoku used just now? Garp smiled. Bamboo dragonfly. This scene also made many people look sideways. None of them are people who use swords, so no matter how strong a lightsaber is, they don't have much interest. It's impossible to practice swordsmanship from scratch just because of a weapon. In particular, although the price of a lightsaber is not high, it is not a small amount. This bamboo dragonfly looks very small and should not cost so much. Yes, 100 have been mass-produced, but I didn't bring them. Roy nodded. Marine headquarters and scientific research and development are not far away, and Roy does not need to use bamboo dragonflies. The old man booked 10. I'll go get it with you later. Garp clapped one hand on Roy's shoulder. Feeling the pressure on his shoulders, Roy cried and laughed. Seeing that Garp has begun to grab the bamboo dragonfly spot, the others are also anxious. They all stepped forward to say that they also needed bamboo dragonflies and lightsabers. Even Kizaru touched his chin and wondered if he needed a bamboo dragonfly. It seems that this thing is very time-saving and interesting. Kizaru now moves by stepping on a cannonball, allowing him to move quickly back and forth between Marine headquarters and Sabayati Island. But that doesn't stop Kizaru from being curious about bamboo dragonflies. Don't make any noise. I'll take care of the allocation of resources. Suru Vice Admiral's words also calmed these people down. In fact, Suru Vice Admiral had heard about the bamboo dragonfly from Sengoku for a long time, and had been ordered by her to distribute it reasonably. Suru, Roy has promised me, this bamboo dragonfly, don't forget it. Garp saw that Suru Vice Admiral was also much weaker. Roy almost squirted. When did he say yes? I didn't expect that even marine heroes like Garp would have unreasonable times. Nope, the first batch does not have your share. Suru Vice Admiral simply refused. Now Garp is semi-retired, and he is not needed for the frontline battle. Therefore, such an important tool as a bamboo dragonfly does not have Garp's share. My bamboo dragonfly, Garp wailed, but the wail only lasted a few seconds, and Garp was already smiling in the blink of an eye. What idea did you come up with? Suru Vice Admiral frowned when he saw this. With what Vice Admiral knows about Garp, this guy is so bold that putting on this kind of smile has never been a good thing before. Nothing, it's just that I can snatch Sengoku's. Garp is already thinking about the next time he sees Sengoku. First put down with a punch, then search the body and use the bamboo dragonfly for yourself. As for what attack on the marshal and something like that, in Garp's opinion, it simply does not care. Vice Admiral covered his forehead, he could control the others. Nothing seems to be able to control Garp. Vice Admirals can't wait, shouting for bamboo dragonflies now. Okay, but wait for the assignment of how much to listen to my orders. Suru Vice Admiral scanned the crowd and said. There are still many generals in important positions who are not present, but their work requires bamboo dragonflies. The first bamboo dragonflies certainly can't forget them. Of course, no problem. Everyone immediately nodded, and they also understood this truth. So a large crowd surrounded Roy and left. This star-like picture of the moon made the soldiers of the headquarters look sideways and discuss. What's going on? Who are so many generals surrounding them? Quote, I don't know, but it's definitely someone important. What important person can make these generals put on a smile, and neither can the celestial dragons. Be bold, celestial dragons is something you can bring up. Quote, slip of the tongue, don't report me. I don't want to die. Quote, ... Red line, Mariajoy ideographic period. Sengoku slowly descended to the land of the Holy Land. The surrounding guards were stunned when they saw Sengoku, wondering how Sengoku appeared here. There are no ships docked in the port. How did Sengoku, who sits at Marine headquarters, appear in front of them? Hurry up and report, I have important matters. Sengoku's words woke the guards up. 5 elders summoned Sengoku for the first time. Sengoku, when did you come to the Holy Land yourself? Is it Shichibukai's business? One of the 5 elders asked. The 5 elders, who sit in Mariajoy, control the world with a lot of intelligence at all times. The number 1 event in the world today is the Crocodile event. Crocodile dealt a serious blow to Shichibukai's reputation. Among the many Shichibukai, Crocodile is a special one. Over the years, Crocodile often hunted pirates as Shichibukai, so he was repeatedly called a hero by the press. He is a representative figure in Shichibukai. Now the hero is an ambitious conspirator, which inevitably casts doubt on Shichibukai's existence. Can these vicious pirates really become helpers for the world government? Still, all like Crocodile, there is something going on behind the scenes. Shichibukai, those are small things, Sengoku said with a wave of his hand. This sentence immediately caused 5 elders displeasure, and they all pulled their faces. They have been busy for a long time for Shichibukai's business. Not only must we find a way to eliminate the effects of this incident, but we must also find a new pirate to replace Crocodile. Who would have thought that the dignified Marine Marshal would not pay attention to this matter? I have more important things to report, the latest result of Colonel Roy of the Scientific Research and Development Department. Sengoku also felt that 5 elders was unhappy, so he quickly said. Colonel Roy. 5 elders frowned, seemingly not having heard of this man. What is the research result? Still, someone from the 5 elders asked. Sengoku has always been very calm, and it must have been useful research that allowed him to come in person. A flying machine called a bamboo dragonfly, and a weapon called a lightsaber. Sengoku explains. Flying machines and weapons. 5 elders are more curious about flying machines. Flying machine, can it be equipped to marine? 5 elders asked. There are no useful flying machines in marine these days, the most common being hot air balloons. Just let me show it. Sengoku smiled slightly and came to the window. Five elders didn't understand what Sengoku meant by walking up to the window. The next scene shocked them, and Sengoku directly opened the huge floor-to-ceiling window. I jumped and jumped. The next second, Sengoku was seen floating outside the window greeting them. And show the flying ability of the bamboo dragonfly, high-speed flight can also flip up and down at will. Is this a flying machine? It looks like the thing above Sengoku's head. This is simply cross-era research. Is it really made by an unknown person? If it's a Vegapunk product, I can believe it. The five elders stood in a row in front of the window, dumbfounded as if a hillbilly had entered town. Fortunately, there was no one else in the chamber. Otherwise, seeing the five world's supreme powers look like this, the prestige of the world government will be even more serious. Definitely far more than the Crocodile Incident. After returning to the conference hall, the bamboo dragonfly had caught the full eye of five elders. Sengoku also introduced the capabilities of bamboo dragonflies in detail. After that, five elders and others were amazed. This Colonel Roy is surprising, perhaps a genius no weaker than Vegapunk. To get Vegapunk, world government spent a huge price. The effect is also very satisfying for them. Vegapunk's research results are epical. But unexpectedly, Marine now seems to have produced another amazing genius. To this, Sengoku had a smile on his face. To praise Roy is an affirmation of Marine's scientific research department, that is, an affirmation of Marine. After all, it was Sengoku who affirmed Roy's work and allocated the first funds. But it's not more important than shichibukai. Five elders turned around and began reminding Sengoku. Every move of shichibukai affects the world every moment. Just because of a novel product, Martial Marine can't ignore shichibukai. Bamboo dragonflies are important, but in five elders' mind, it's a big difference from 7 warlords of the sea. A moment that affects the balance of this sea. One, at best, is just to change the pattern of some kind of military use. And a lightsaber. At this time, Sengoku took out the hilt of his sword. This sentence brought five elders back to his senses and reminded Sengoku that he had another product to showcase. Just looking at this sticky thing, it's hard for them to accept what kind of useful product this is. Does this thing called a lightsaber have the same value as a bamboo dragonfly? Five elders frowned, suspicious. The value is higher than that of a bamboo dragonfly. Sengoku was full of confidence and began to talk endlessly about things in the martial arts training field. Sengoku was also quite proud, especially when he said the famous knife that cut Doberman. Sengoku could not hide his excitement. But the more exaggerated Sengoku became, the harder five elders could believe it. In the end, I directly put on an expression that you tease me. Especially when Sengoku says it needs 2 billion in research and development. The five elders all wondered if Sengoku was mentally ill and should be given early retirement. Billion. That's no small amount. Oh, I haven't turned the switch on yet. Sengoku talked for a long time before noticing that he hadn't shown his lightsaber yet. Five elders' reaction is familiar to him, isn't it exactly the same as he was then? At that time, I just saw this hilt and felt that the lightsaber was nothing remarkable. As he spoke, Sengoku flipped the switch. When the lightsaber pops out of the hilt, it also startles the five elders. With the insight of five elders, he also felt the fluctuations emanating from this lightsaber, which was very powerful. There is a mysterious power that they cannot see. At least they have never seen such a weapon. But they were still very skeptical of what Sengoku had just described. In the past, in order to win R&D funds, there were many things that were hyped up for scientific research products. If the money was less, they would have approved it for Sengoku's sake. However, this time the number is too large. As the highest power in the world government, it is impossible to approve so many funds at will without seeing the true power of the lightsaber. Sengoku, why don't you show us? The bald old man in the kimono in the five elders spoke. As a swordsman, the bald old man did not think that a lightsaber could be very strong. In particular, he is also the owner of first-generation Onichi, and he has more trust in the famous knife in his hand. This is one of the 12 great fast knives, the world's top knife. It is definitely not a scientific research product, it can be compared. Sengoku nodded. knowing that he could only be convinced by seeing it with his own eyes. In addition, he is not a smart salesman, and he cannot interpret the true value of lightsabers. How about experimenting with that armor? Sengoku pointed to a pair of armor on the wall next to it. It was a pair of blue heavy knight armor, more than 6 meters long from the ankle to the helmet. It shows that the previous owner was a burly man. And everyone's first impression when they saw this armor was that it was covered with staggered sword marks. But there is not a single sword mark that can penetrate deep into the armor. Only a shallow layer of scratches. This is enough to prove that this suit of armor, after so many battles, cannot destroy it. Are you sure you want to experiment with this armor? How many swordsmen can only leave a trace on it? This armor was once called a swordsman's nightmare. When the bald old man talked about the armor, he was full of pride. The bald old man collected this armor, but also took a fancy to its strong defense, and the swordsman could not shake it at all in the face of this armor. At this time, it is like a natural work of art, with a fierce beauty. Although I am not a swordsman, this armor cannot block the lightsaber, but if this armor is so important, then let's change it. Sengoku is confident in his lightsaber. I also don't want to spoil this armor just like that. It's not necessary, just experiment with it, it's challenging. The bald old man waved his hand, seemingly unconcerned. This kind of collection is not valuable in his collection. Hearing this, Sengoku no longer spoke. He took a deep breath and stepped in front of the armor, and the lightsaber in his hand swung down casually. This look is fluttering and has no power to speak of. Not to mention the owner of first generation, even the other 5 elders can see it. Sengoku uses the strength to the exhibition. I'm afraid I can only cut fruit. However, what he didn't expect was that the lightsaber disappeared into the armor without any obstacles. Is this lightsaber just a decoration? The bald old man couldn't help but say. The light that emits energy is actually like the light of a flashlight. Sengoku took such a thing to fool them. Of course not. Sengoku smiled slightly and drew his lightsaber back. Bang! The armor had already split in half from the middle, and the unfixed side smashed on the floor. Sengoku swung his sword one after another, and the armor on the ground turned into a pile of iron filings in the blink of an eye. 5 elders stepped forward to check and found that the incision was very smooth, and there was no trace of it. As if this was just a pile of iron filings. The rest of the 5 elders were shocked. They had heard the bald old man tell the history of this armor and boasted about it. This was also verified by the sword marks on it, and the armor seemed to them to be invulnerable. Unexpectedly, in front of Sengoku's slashed lightsaber, it was like white paper. Nothing remarkable, this knife of mine can do it too. Just as the other 5 elders were surprised, the bald old man looked unyielding and stepped forward to Sengoku's side. His gaze stared at the armor on the wall, and the ghost in his hand was already swinging rapidly. After a flurry of knives, half of the armor on the wall had also turned into iron filings. The bald old man also had no chaotic breath at all, and he seemed very relaxed. After all, what he has in his hand is the 3rd generation ghost. However, the rest of the 5 elders have seen that the bald old man uses significantly more strength than Sengoku. However, just by virtue of this, it is not possible to determine the value of a lightsaber. Go find something hard. The bald old man himself was not convinced, pushed open the door of the conference room and said to the guard. If he didn't prove today that first generation was more powerful than a lightsaber, he wouldn't be willing. Hard stuff. Several guards were puzzled. I'm going to try the knife. The bald old man scolded. When they heard this, the guards understood, and immediately went to prepare. It seems that this is not the first time that the bald old man has shown the ability of first generation, and the soldiers have long been accustomed to it. Soon a pile of metal was piled up in the conference room. These looks a little familiar, a pacifist. Sengoku always felt like he had seen somewhere. Isn't this the armor of pacifists? Marine is now developing a secret weapon, a humanoid weapon with super combat effectiveness. It's all scrap, but the hardness is exactly the same as the finished product. The bald old man explained. The Holy Land has these things, and 5 elders is always overseeing these latest technology projects. Exactly, let me give it a try. Sengoku is also excited. Swinging a knife at one of the scraps again, Sengoku is holding the knife with both hands. Otherwise, once this armor is not cut, doesn't it mean that the lightsaber is not of much value? However, this time the result was no different, and the lightsaber still easily cut off the armor. Even the force was too great, and it sank deep into the floor. It's a little harder. After Sengoku drew his lightsaber, he apologized a little embarrassed. However, no one cared about Sengoku's apology, and five elders' eyes were fixed on the armor on the ground. This armor can be cut off so easily. How can it be? They know the technology of Vegapunk, and the hardness of these armors is enough to compete with pirates with a bounty of more than 100 million. Could it be that you guys are mistaken? The bald old man looked at the guards who had sent the materials. Absolutely nothing wrong. It's the same batch as before. The guard replied with a trembling voice. Just being questioned by five elders already made them shiver. I'll try it myself. When the bald old man saw the appearance of the guards, he already knew that there was nothing wrong with this armor. The bald old man also swung his knife and slashed at the material on the ground. This time, everyone could feel that first-generation Ghost Che had a clear setback. The result is the same, the material is cut off. The incision was far less smooth than the lightsaber left and appeared rough. It is enough to prove that the sharpness of the two is not at the same level. The bald old man was silent. He knew very well that first-generation Ghost Che had fallen behind. Didn't Vegapunk send new materials? Bring that. Inside the five elders, the old man with a scar on his forehead said to the guards. Which one do you want to try? The bald old man was a little surprised. Of course, it's the hardest metal in the world. The scarred old man nodded. Sengoku was curious about what five elders was referring to. Without asking Sengoku to wait long, he saw the real thing. A gray object, like gold rather than gold, like a brick, looks nothing special. This is the hardest metal in the world. Sengoku expressed skepticism. Just by looking at the appearance, of course, you can't understand that this is metal with 10% sea stone. The scarred old man smiled. Sea stone is exceptionally hard and is said to be as hard as diamond. The addition of sea stone metal can make the capable become weak. If weapons can be made out of this metal, it will be a nightmare for those who are capable. However, Vegapunk also said that this technology is currently more difficult. I am afraid that it will not succeed in the short term, just to show five elders. The secret of how to build sea stone is still with the craftsmen of Wano-kuni. World government has so far been unable to touch Wano-kuni with its hand. My knife cuts this metal. The bald old man said even more directly. So it is. Sengoku nodded silently. The heart said that five elders even took out this kind of thing, which is a bit difficult. It seems that this money-intensive thing is difficult at all times. But this also proves that as long as you cut off the metal yourself. This made the five elders realize the value of a lightsaber. The five elders all looked expectant, and they also wanted to see the birth of a cross-arrow weapon. If the lightsaber can cut off this metal, not only will there be no problem with funding, but Roy's status in Marine will be second only to Vegapunk. The words of the bald old man. In fact, the lightsaber has been affirmed. After all, the power displayed by the lightsaber just now has surpassed that of first-generation Onichi. Five elders wanted to know where the limits of lightsaber power were. When Sengoku heard this, he was of course happy for Roy. Now Sengoku is a little regretful, why he didn't bring a sword master. The power of using a lightsaber must be stronger than your own, then the success rate will be high. It's a pity that it's too late to regret it now, and Sengoku can only bite the bullet and go on it himself. Ha! With a loud gulp, Sengoku raised his lightsaber violently and slashed at the sea stone metal. Sparks are everywhere, a loud crash sounded, and the sea stone metal shattered in response, turning into several pieces. I cut it. Sengoku couldn't help but shout. He himself did not expect that the lightsaber would be so terrifying. The five elders were subverted by the power of lightsabers. You must know that Sengoku does not know the tricks of swordsmanship, and does not attach haki to the sword to increase damage. You can actually chop this sea stone metal. On this sea, there are many people who can cut steel. But there will never be one, as easy as holding a lightsaber. Not to mention that this is harder than ordinary steel, comparable to 100% pure sea stone. Bring the lightsaber and I'll take a look. The bald old man couldn't wait to step forward. Before Sengoku could speak, he had already snatched the lightsaber from his hand. Good, good. Among the 5 elders, a bald old man in a kimono holds a lightsaber and can't put it down. Suddenly I felt that the first-generation ghost in my hand was not fragrant. Although first-generation Ghost Toru is the strongest in the Ghost Toru series, it is also one of the 12 supreme fast swords. But first-generation Onitsu is on an equal footing with the other 11 big knives after all, and there is no advantage. This lightsaber is different, and the strength of the owner will immediately be 2 grades. This knife is a sample. Sengoku saw that the other party didn't seem to have the intention of returning the knife to himself. However, Sengoku reminded several times, and the other party did not let go. The scientific research fund was approved, but I will leave this knife to study it. The bald old man pressed the switch and held the hilt of his sword in his arms like a treasure. And what about samples? Anyway, there is no difference with the finished product. But Sengoku wanted to say something, but was directly interrupted by the bald old man. Isn't it R&D funds? Is 3 billion enough? The bald old man waved his hand and said, 3 billion. Sengoku couldn't help but be surprised. Just now, he just made a request of 2 billion. In terms of military applications, especially scientific research results that can be directly equipped, investment in research and development can be increased. Another 5 elders next to him explained. It seems that the additional billion Bailey budget for Roy is not just the opinion of the bald old man. It's a common view across 5 elders. 3 billion can be exchanged for such a cross-era weapon, which is really a bonus. It seems that a small amount of research funding is still useful for members of the scientific research department other than Vegapunk. Maybe when you can get the harvest. This is really good. Sengoku let out a long breath. In this way, the mass production of lightsabers is just around the corner. Sengoku wasn't at all worried that Roy would be unable to complete the task. By the way, our promise just now is also valid. In the Marine Scientific Research Department, give Colonel Roy the status of second only to Vegapunk. We must focus on taking care of him, and what needs he has will be met as soon as possible. 5 elders didn't forget to remind Sengoku. Of course, those within my authority will try to agree, and if it is other requirements, I will report to the Holy Land. Sengoku nodded. The 5 elders were satisfied, and they needed marshals like Sengoku. And since Sengoku has already arrived, he discussed Shichibukai's affairs by the way. In fact, the crocodile matter is closed. The key is what kind of person to choose for the replacement. It must be both strength and fame, which is the threshold to become a Shichibukai. Of course, they must also show loyalty to the world government. Generally speaking, this is also a letter of submission. 5 elders has drawn up several slots for Sengoku to refer to. Sengoku looked at the people on the list and shook his head unconsciously. These people's reputation and strength are enough to reach the threshold, but Sengoku always feels that something is missing. Shichibukai is definitely not a roundup, and just reaching the threshold is not enough. It must be enough to deter the pirates of this sea, so that they can be worthy of the name, Shichibukai. It seems that you don't have a satisfied person either. 5 elders sighed. They couldn't pick the right person from among these people, so they had to wait for the Shichibukai meeting to decide. At that point, a choice had to be made. Time will not allow Shichibukai's position to remain vacant. Sengoku's gaze was fixed on another wanted warrant on the table, and his expression became solemn. The person on the wanted warrant is Fire Fist Ace. This wanted warrant appears on 5 elders' table, which also means that 5 elders is always watching the movements of Ace and Fire Fist. From the time Ace first went to sea to become a pirate, he had already attracted the attention of the world government. He also invited Ace to become Shichibukai, but was declined. However, such a pirate will be the reason why 5 elders pays special attention. It is because when the world government was investigating Fire Fist Ace, it accidentally found that Fire Fist Ace turned out to be the son of One Piece Roger. The most evil blood flows in the body. This bloodline must not be allowed to remain in the world. Just as the world government was about to send someone to attack Ace. Ace boarded Whitebeard's ship and became Whitebeard's righteous son. Sheltered by the world's strongest man, world government and Marine completely lost the opportunity to attack Ace. Today's Ace, this is the number 1 henchman of the world government. If there is nothing important, I will go first. After looking away, Sengoku looked at 5 elders and said, "Well, let's go." 5 elders nodded. Sengoku picked up the bamboo dragonfly again and put it on his head. "Wait a minute, this bamboo dragonfly will also stay." The scarred old man spoke. Apparently he also became interested in bamboo dragonflies. "Ahem, I didn't come on a warship this time, and I had to rush to marine scientific research to quickly tell Roy the news and urge him to speed up." Sengoku coughed dryly and found several reasons. The scarred old man did not insist when he heard this. Just the look in Sengoku's eyes when he left was still full of regret. Who wouldn't want to experience what it's like to fly freely? This time in marine research, Roy's office. The marine generals who were lively just now have now left satisfied. Vice Admiral distributed bamboo dragonflies to them on demand, and took the rest of the inventory with them. There are many places where bamboo dragonflies are urgently needed. Roy was also relieved that the first batch of bamboo dragonflies had finally been delivered. Just now, someone wanted to visit Roy's arsenal, but he directly refused. Fortunately, many weapons manufacturing are themselves confidential, and it is normal for Roy to refuse. "It's time to make yourself stronger, now mine is a little too weak." Roy looked at his panel and sighed. Open the dimensional technology system and have a chance to draw 10 times in a row. This is a reward given after developing a lightsaber. 10 consecutive draws. Roy chose to use the reward. What pops into Roy's mind is a giant wheel with various categorical rewards. Bite. Congratulations to host. Obtain. Physical strengthening. Congratulations to host. Obtained. Dao power enhancement. Congratulations to host. Gain. Hockey enhancement. Congratulations to host. Obtain. Physical strengthening. Congratulations to host. Obtained. Dao power enhancement. Congratulations to host. A series of system tones came. Roy only felt that the whole body, cells and flesh and blood, changed instantly. Powerful power emerges from all over the body. It's so strong, it's worthy of the system's 10 consecutive draws. With my current strength, I should have reached the Rear Admiral level, right? Carefully feeling the changes in his body, Roy's face was full of surprise. Let's look at the personal properties panel. Sure enough, something has changed. Host, Roy. Rank, Colonel. Dao power, 3000. Hockey, Observation Hockey Elementary, Armament Hockey Elementary. Physical skills, Marine 6 Styles Intermediate. Technology, Bamboo Dragonfly Mass-produced lightsaber not mass-produced. Unlock, lightsaber goes into mass production to unlock the next technology. Looking at the properties panel and his powerful changes, Roy was very satisfied in his heart. Right now, alert, alarm, someone enters the detection range, someone enters the detection range. Quote. Roy's headset rang out Jarvis's voice. Jarvis can detect the arsenal and give early warning of any wind and grass within a kilometer radius. Intruder scan complete. It's Sengoku. Alert dismissal. Quote. Without waiting for Roy to ask, Jarvis had already identified the visitor. Close production, disguise. Roy is the only one in his department, and the arsenal is fully automated by Jarvis without a single soldier. Once discovered, Roy doesn't know how many lies he has to make up to get past it. So Roy was already prepared, and he asked Jarvis to disguise the factory. Automated production lines can be hidden at any time. After all, if Sengoku asked to visit, it was impossible for Roy to refuse. Roy stepped to the door to greet Sengoku in person. Roy, I have good news for you. Sengoku couldn't hide the joy on his face. Did the appropriation come down? Roy was surprised. Haha, that's right. A full 3 billion Bailey's allocation, a full billion more than your budget, don't let me down. Quote. Sengoku excitedly patted Roy on the shoulder, showing great affection. Roy was stunned, and he didn't expect 5 elders to be so generous. It seems that Mr. Sengoku put a lot of effort into it. In fact, Roy himself did not expect that the funds would be approved so smoothly. After all, he's not Vegapunk. Now that there is an extra billion Baileys, there should also be funds for the research and development of the next technology. Haha, for the future of Marine, the old man, as a marshal, must define it. Roy, if you need anything in the future, you can come to me at any time. Sengoku gave Roy great permissions directly. I have to say that he has not encountered such a big surprise for a long time. And this surprise, still discovered by Naval Headquarters, is clearly different from the Vegapunk invited by the world government. Without Mr. Sengoku's help, let alone a lightsaber, even bamboo dragonflies can't be mass-produced. Roy smiled slightly. This attitude of not being humble really made Sengoku look more and more pleasant, and he also regarded Roy as a key talent of Naval Headquarters. After all, bamboo dragonflies appear in the world, then it is impossible that no one notices. At Marine, in other departments, even in other forces. It is not weapons that are important, but talents. Okay, then I won't bother you. Before leaving, Sengoku patted Roy on the shoulder and said in a deep voice, also, the old man can be optimistic about you, don't lose to which Vegapunk. Quote. After saying that, he turned and left. In order to allow Roy to focus on scientific research and development, he, the Marine Marshal, is not bothered too much. Vegapunk. After watching Sengoku leave, the corners of Roy's mouth raised slightly. He really wanted to see what this figure with 500 years of technology leading the world was like. However, as things stand, Marine is still very talent-oriented. In the future, there should be a chance to meet Vegapunk. Whispering to himself, Roy turned and returned to the arsenal. It is set as a confidential place and cannot be entered by ordinary people. He moved the finished goods warehouse outside, so that when someone came to pick up the tech products, he would also stay away from the arsenal. Make sure that idle people don't come close at all. There will be no more scenes like today, flocking to snatch bamboo dragonflies. You don't have to camouflage the production line yourself. Roy planned to call the soldiers in the scientific research department and ask them to take charge of the matter in the first place. He also gave instructions to Jarvis. The arsenal, which had been quiet, had begun to operate. Roy has enough supplies here to produce for a few days. It will then be renewed when the funding is available. The first half of the Grand Line, somewhere in the sea. On the deck of a warship, soldiers lined up in a neat line. They listened attentively to the commander's speech. Those evil pirates, no matter where they fled, could not avoid a just trial. We will turn into unstoppable blades and punish them. Quote. Today is the time to eliminate their evil, soldiers. Are you ready to fight for justice? A colonel stood impassioned at a high place. The soldiers below even waved their fists. Ready. Let's defeat the wolf pirates. The colonel roared. Annihilate the evil wolf pirate group, justice will win. Annihilate the evil wolf pirate group, justice will win. Annihilate the evil wolf pirate group, justice will win. Seeing that the soldiers were already boiling with enthusiasm, the colonel nodded with satisfaction. Turning his head back into the room, he dialed the phone worm. Bulu Brew. Report. Pre-war mobilization is over. Please give instructions. Quote. The colonel, who was still majestic just now, also had a very nervous expression at this time. Because the identity of the person on the other side of the phone worm is no longer within his usual reach. Marine Marshal, Sengoku. Very good. Get moving. Quote. Sengoku, who was far away at Marine's headquarters, gave the order. Sengoku was not the only one in the conference room, but also senior staff officers from the naval headquarters. In front of them was a huge screen showing the soldiers in formation. As Sengoku had just given the order, the colonel reappeared on deck. Then a group of soldiers took out bamboo dragonflies and installed them overhead, and flew in one direction with the colonel. The warships followed slowly below them. I hope this battle can reflect the value of bamboo dragonflies. Sengoku himself was actually nervous. After all, this is a special operation launched using bamboo dragonflies. Whether the bamboo dragonfly can play a role on the battlefield, this operation can prove it. The target of this group of soldiers was the evil wolf pirate group. The captain is a vicious pirate with a bounty of 80 million. Entrenched on the island ahead, it has been some time. Marine has always been a headache. The island where the wolf pirate group is located is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Unless you launch a combat power above Vice Admiral, it is difficult to attack from the front. Marine has tried several times before, but it has been a lot of losses. It's not that the pirates are powerful, but the terrain that curbs Marines' play. It's not just happening here. Most of the pirates' strongholds occupy favorable terrain or sea areas. For example, in East Blue's Dragonland land, Marine was sunk from under the water before the fishmen could get close. Marine is usually difficult to encircle, their advantage is equipment crushing, but in this situation there is no action. Unless higher combat effectiveness is mobilized. However, now this is the era of sea pirates, and there are many pirates. It is impossible to have so much combat power that can be dispatched. Now the birth of the bamboo dragonfly has convinced the staff of Marine headquarters that this situation is about to change. Go. With the colonel's order, the warship adjusted its direction and burst towards the pirate island in the distance. On the deck, dozens of elite soldiers lined up neatly, wearing bamboo dragonflies at the same time, sword high one by one, and the soldiers of the warship below were envious. This special military operation received great attention from the naval headquarters. Throughout the operation, the Marine senior management of the headquarters was liaised throughout the operation. Dozens of Marine wearing cloaks of justice, relying on bamboo dragonflies are flying, and have quietly approached the island. Report. We have risen to a position of 1,000 meters. Quote. There are thin clouds around, and the wind speed is about 20 meters per second. The bamboo dragonfly was not affected at all, and all the soldiers were normal. The major was constantly reporting his situation through the telephone worm. The sound is intermittent and noisy. Sengoku and the others all pinched their sweat. After all, this was the first time to use bamboo dragonflies for a raid. At an altitude of 1,000 meters, will the soldiers be able to adapt? Now there seems to be no problem at all. It's not how strong these soldiers are, but the bamboo dragonfly has its own anti-gravity circle. As soon as the bamboo dragonfly is activated, the user will be surrounded and will not be affected by the external environment. Keep going. Choose the right opportunity to attack. Sengoku instructed through the phone worm. Understood. The major responded. ... And at this time, a deserted island suspended from the sea. The members of the Evil Wolf Pirates are now holding a grand banquet to celebrate the victory. Just half a day ago, they had just looted a merchant ship. He also threw off the pursuit of a warship and returned to the island smoothly. The pirates were in high spirits, enjoying the wine and food they snatched up. But at this time, on the edge of the coast, those pirates who were guarding suddenly noticed that a warship appeared on the sea. Marine is still not dead, and it goes around here again. HMPH. Call if you have the guts. What to dangle outside? Quote. I guess I want to wait for us to go out before attacking. How is it possible for Marine to find this opportunity? Our ships are faster. Chapter 11. The appearance of warships did not make these pirates fearful. On the contrary, they all emitted an extreme shameful laugh. Marine has many requirements when building ships, and it is not an exaggeration to claim to be the world's first in terms of firepower and voyages. And pirates, there is only one, that is, faster than warships. Today, relying on the advantages of the island's topography. In front of the pirates, the warship is a moving target. As usual, these warships should patrol for a circle before leaving, not daring to approach the island. But this time, the warship did not detour. Straight towards the island. This is a groundbreaking thing. Haha, don't you understand that a warship will be sunk before it approaches our island? We rely on the terrain and have long been invincible. HMPH, is it just a warship to send to death? Don't even sound the alarm. Quote. Seeing this, these guarding pirates laughed one after another. There is no need to alarm the captains and cadres who are holding a banquet in the depths of the island. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The next moment, the shell shot out and landed on the surface of the sea, with a loud sound of shock. According to past experience, the warship at this time should retreat in the face of difficulties and dare not approach any further. However, instead of retreating, the warships on the sea braved artillery fire and rushed towards the island at full speed. See this scene. These guarding pirates were slightly stunned, and immediately laughed one by one. Haha, I don't know if I'm alive or dead. Brothers, shoot lousy and bomb his mother's marine. The roar of artillery resounded all around. The headquarters of the pirate group deep on the island is in full bloom with a major banquet. Well, the captain of the pirate regiment, the Evil Wolf, who was sitting on the captain's throne, naturally heard it, so he waved his hand to summon a subordinate to inquire. The answer was to make the captain laugh contemptuously. Gaga, who do they think Lousy is? Just a warship dares to disturb Uncle Ben and sink them hard for Lousy. How long ago was the last marine attack? It seems to have been 2 months ago. This time again, without 3 warships coming, there is no need to be afraid at all. This is their valuable experience from their previous guerrilla campaigns with marine. With the island's unique topography, they could be the first to attack warships. The guns of warships are blocked by cliffs. The pirates' artillery can be hidden, right between the gaps in the cliffs. Yes, boss, the younger brother got the order and slowly turned to leave. They were used to marine attacks. A warship, what is enough? Bang! Under the laughter of gongs and drums, suddenly there was a gunshot. I saw the subordinates who had just left, and immediately fell in response. In the back of the braincase, there is an extra blood hole. Well, what's going on? Chaotic banquet. Time stopped in an instant. Even the evil wolf sitting on the captain's throne couldn't help but widen his eyes and look around vigilantly. However, except for the drunken crew, there are no enemies around. Maid, who fired the shot? Captain Wolf got angry and stood up and shouted coldly. Hearing this, the crew looked at each other, and they were all confused. But right now, bang bang bang, the sound of gunfire came endlessly. The pirates who were drinking fell to the ground one after another, and those pirates who narrowly escaped the first wave of attacks showed a terrified look. What's going on? Who the hell attacked us? Quote, Maid, is there a treacherous? I'm injured, come and save me. The pirates don't understand why they are attacked. Obviously this is a paradise. For a moment, screams and frightened voices were mixed. Witnessing all this, the captain had already turned over, holding 2 muskets in his hands. His eyes widened, trying to find out where the enemy was. The captain began to wonder if there was a traitor among his own people, Marine's treachery. Someone betrayed himself. Otherwise, how can there be an attack, and there are marine ships coming outside? It must be inside and outside. However, the captain's eyes were full of fallen corpses of his own people. Wait a minute, this gunshot seems to come from overhead. How is this possible? How can there be enemies in the sky? The captain didn't believe it at all, but she still subconsciously looked up at the sky. A terrifying scene appeared for him. At an altitude of 100 meters, dozens of marine soldiers flew into the air. The cloak of justice flew and exuded soaring killing intent. The guns in their hands mercilessly spit tongues of fire, harvesting the lives of the pirates. Heavens! Marine in the sky! Hurry up and dodge! Captain Wolf roared. This sound made the pirates who were still alive stunned, and the heart said whether the captain was driven crazy. How can there be enemies in the sky? Still, some people looked up to the sky. Marine is really in the sky. It's like a god. It's Marine, they're really in the sky. Run, Marine is coming. I don't know who shouted. The next moment, the pirates, who were already panicked, immediately scattered for their lives, looking for caves or dense forests on the island to hide. They know very well that being exposed to marine is death. And their captain, the evil wolf, has long disappeared. Only a pile of food scraps on the ground, as well as shattered wine bottles, remained. You guys go attack the pirates who control the cannons. The major descended from the sky and waved his hand at a group of soldiers. The pirates who were guarding, who did not know that marine had attacked at this time, were still working hard to attack the warship. They also wondered why the warship had not retreated. In the past, when Marine realized that he could only be beaten, he had already backed away. Now he actually went straight and forward, as if he wanted to forcibly land on the island. Haha, this group of Marine is crazy. Let's hit hard. Lousy hasn't sunk a warship yet. Let them know that they are powerful, and they dare not come over next time. The pirates controlling the cannons shouted. He didn't notice that Shinigami had come to the sky. Those pirates at the banquet had already done their best just by running for their lives. Where else is the opportunity to come and send a message to the companions? Bang bang, gunshots rang out behind them, bullets shot out one after another, and the pirates fell to the ground. This time they didn't even notice that the person who killed them came from the air. And the other side, Major Marine stuck to the ground and rushed into the dense forest to accelerate his flight. Even on the ground, the bamboo dragonfly shows a very strong pursuit ability. The speed of 80 kilometers per hour has allowed it to surpass most people. Before a minute, the Major was already able to see the captain. From the beginning, the Major has not forgotten the biggest threat in this pirate group. Bang, bang, the musket sounded, and 2 bullets grazed the Major's cheek and flew over. Don't chase me. The person who made the attack was the captain, who turned his head in horror and yelled. Facing the Marine capable of flying, the captain has long been frightened. I didn't expect to enter the dense forest, but I still couldn't escape the pursuit. Captain Wolf, your end has come. The Major's eyes were resolute. Today is the time to settle the general ledger. Bang bang. In desperation, the captain pulled the trigger continuously. The bullets were easily dodged by the Major. In the blink of an eye, he had already caught up. Boom. The next moment, the long knife came out of its sheath and flashed away with a sharp cold light, bringing up a splash of blood. Poof. The captain faced the sky and lay straight on the ground, no longer breathing. This group of evil wolves and pirates entrenched in this sea area was disintegrated. At the same time, Marine on the warship has landed. With the Heavenly Marine, a large-scale search on the island began. None of the pirates escaped this hunt. The wolf pirate group with a reward of 80 million Bailey was uprooted. Marine's great victory, the power of dispatch, is just a warship, which is unprecedented. The news was sent back to Marine headquarters. Sengoku and the others, who were waiting, finally breathed a sigh of relief. The bamboo dragonfly has worked more than we expected, and it all went too smoothly. Sengoku couldn't hide his excitement. The attack that fell from the sky collapsed, and the pirates willed and defended. This kind of surprise attack was not expected by the pirates. Yes, this is the best equipment to use surprise attacks. Suru Vice Admiral nodded as well. Even when fighting, bamboo dragonflies have unexpected effects. Even Garp is excited. Now Garp is playing with a bamboo dragonfly in his hand. As for where this bamboo dragonfly came from, I don't know. Immediately give instructions to those generals who have received the bamboo dragonfly, let them strictly block the news of the bamboo dragonfly, and do not let this strategic weapon leak out. Sengoku became serious. He is ready to use the bamboo dragonfly as a whole card at critical moments. Even because of the bamboo dragonfly's amazing ability, Sengoku had the idea of recycling the bamboo dragonfly. It's just that what has already been distributed is difficult to recycle. Sengoku regretted a little, and his original move was a bit hasty. Still not paying enough attention to Roy's research results. When the lightsaber is mass-produced, the same mistake will definitely not be made. It's just that what Sengoku and others don't know is, a messenger seagull passing by has filmed their marine covert operation. And the photos soon reached Grand Line, the headquarters of the World Economic Journal. World Economic Daily Headquarters. What is this thing? It can actually make people fly in the air. Quote. Morgan's eyes widened and he looked closely at the photographs that had been taken. Sure, not capable. These people are marine, and there are dozens. President. Entrenched there are the evil wolf pirates, who are the heart of the nearby marine. The subordinates next to him have already turned over the information. Morgan snatched it up and looked at it carefully. Interesting. This is Marine's new weapon. Morgan's was excited. Over the years, his sense of news made him quickly aware of the doorway. Specially selected an obscure place on the Grand Line to avoid the eyes. It's a pity that your bad luck was captured by my seagull. I want to figure out what this is. Morgan's looked excited. Putting down the information, he made a few mysterious phone calls. In the plot, Morgan's repeatedly obtains some classified information as news. Even in the closed Wano-kuni, there are internal wires installed by Morgan's. Knowing what Marine's new weapons are is not a problem for Morgan's. It's just that this also requires him to pay a great price. Bamboo Dragonfly. A seemingly harmless name is actually a cross-era technological invention. It's Marine's usual style. Morgan's looked disdainful. The reason for this is Morgan's dislike of Marine. Repeated reports of Marine's secret intelligence have made Morgan's a thorn in the side of the world government. The name Bamboo Dragonfly can only lie innocently. Immediately afterwards, newspapers with shocking titles spread throughout the world. Marine's strategic weapon, this gadget is enough to give Marine an overwhelming advantage in future wars. Bamboo Dragonfly. Close double angle bracket. As soon as the news came out, it shook the whole world. Great, Marine will get stronger with this. Quote, yes, the pirates entrenched in our hometown will definitely be eliminated in the near future. No matter what kind of terrain, it can't stop Marine. Not to mention the islands, even the pirate ships on the sea are also targeted. The end of the pirates is coming, and the judgment of justice is coming. Ordinary people are naturally very happy. One by one, they were excited to tell the contents of the newspaper to others. Unable to control their destiny, they see Marine as their savior. On the other side, the pirates were in an uproar. Worried about Marine's new invention, he looked to the sky from time to time. It was as if in the next second hordes of Marine would attack from the sky. Their former proud base is now a living target for Marine. Countless pirates packed their bags and fled their territory. At this time, uninhabited islands became their preferred target. As long as it is not detected, it will not be attacked. Gaia Island. After leaving Alabasta, the Straw Hat Pirates have just arrived here. Bamboo Dragonfly, so powerful, can it really make people fly? Luffy looked at the bamboo dragonfly in the newspaper, his eyes widened, and he looked like he wanted. He kept entwining his palms together, trying to simulate the appearance of a bamboo dragonfly. Either way, Luffy found himself just not able to fly. Stupid. Don't put on a stupid look, this aircraft has marine technology in it. Nami covered her face helplessly. Fortunately, there are no passers-by on their street. Otherwise, it's a shame to die. I remember when I was in Alabasta, I saw the technology that confused devil fruit and weapons, so it seems that bamboo dragonflies are not unusual. Usopp touched his chin and said. Unlike the rest of the crew, who were buzzing with discussions, Robin looked at the newspaper thoughtfully. Recent newspapers have no news of Crocodile. Marine just said Crocodile, trying to plot to take Alabasta. There was no mention of the ancient weapon Pluton. Was Marine unaware or deliberately concealed? Robin thinks the former is more likely. After all, Robin had already seen Crocodile's means and ambitions when he was still around. Apart from Robin and Crocodile himself, there is no third person who knows about them and is looking for the ancient weapon. Of course, Luffy and his companions are also insiders. But Robin has also decided through getting along that they are not leakers. Are these the partners of their dreams? Wait, if there are bamboo dragonflies, can we fly directly to Sky Island? Luffy said, pointing above his head. Stupid, that's a pirate's technological invention, how can we get it? Usopp patted Luffy on the head. But I want it too. Chopper's eyes were glowing. I want it too. Luffy shrugged his head, he could already imagine the sight of flying around wearing a bamboo dragonfly. Looking at their expressions, Zoro and the others smiled. Who wouldn't want that? Fly, that's an irresistible temptation. Grand Line, Daughter's Island. Not good. This new type of equipment from Marine can be used to raid us with the comm belt. Mother-in-law found Hancock with the newspaper. Because of the special geographical location of Daughter's Island, it is located in the comm belt. Therefore, it is not easy to get the news here, and it is often lost from the outside world. Therefore, Mother-in-law cherishes every newspaper and is always concerned about changes in the world situation. He is an important staff officer around Hancock today. The concubine is Shichibukai, and there is an agreement with the world government. How can Marine attack us? Faced with his mother-in-law's worries, Hancock didn't seem to care. Now you are still Shichibukai, but once you lose your Shichibukai identity, this country will become an ordinary pirate country. You'll be haunted by Marine all day long. Mother-in-law looked worried. The location of the Daughter's Island led to the lack of various materials in their lives. But the members of the island are all women, and girls are born when they are pregnant. Doomed to be at a loss when trading with other people. After a long time, the Daughter Island can only live by plundering and becomes a pirate country. The island also worships powerful female warriors. Sea kings in the comm belt became a natural defense for Daughter's Island. Even Marine had not been able to invade the island for hundreds of years before Vegapunk invented a warship that could traverse the comm belt. Lose Shichibukai's place. Hancock's brow furrowed. With the Crocodile Incident, the remaining shichibukai will certainly be suspected by the world government. It is also possible that one day the shichibukai system will be abolished. That's right, we have to be prepared. Mother-in-law nodded. No problem. Hancock smiled slightly, revealing a sweet face. You already have a way. Mother-in-law raised her eyebrows. But what Grandma Zhao didn't expect was that Hancock's next words almost made her faint. Even if the country is destroyed, the concubine body will be forgiven, because the concubine body is too beautiful. Hancock was fascinated by his beauty. New world, on an island. The wine here is really bad, it seems to be brewed with potatoes. I think it's good, it's the first time I've experienced this flavor. No way, it's good to have alcohol in this place, after all, there are only more than 100 people in this town. The crew chatted while drinking. The captain, the red-haired Shanks, has been staring at the newspaper in his hand for half a day. Captain, you've noticed it too. Next to Beckman spoke very seriously. This bamboo dragonfly is very interesting, you guys also come and see it. The redhead slammed the newspaper on the table. Hearing this, the crew gathered around with wine glasses. Can people fly that high? Unbelievable, I thought that only those who have fruit ability can obtain the ability to fly. If we get a few, we can fly too, haha. The crew giggled, all thinking that bamboo dragonflies were rare gadgets. As for the bamboo dragonfly threatening them, they did not think about this possibility. What about the flying marine, isn't it still marine? The guy in the sky, red hair pirates, didn't kill any less. Their captains are called the Four Emperors. The appearance of bamboo dragonflies may give Marine other ideas. Unlike everyone's laughter, Beckman looked slightly solemn and said in a deep voice. Other ideas. This sentence silenced both the redhead and the crew. They are not afraid of enemies coming from the air, but others are different. Marine's equipment can change the pattern of the world. It looks like a new storm has begun. The redhead muttered. The Whitebeard pirates, who are hosting a family banquet aboard the Moby Dick at this time. If I had a bamboo dragonfly, I could fly. Marco, this is not your patent anymore. Joes patted Marco the shoulder and said with a smile. The heavy force also made Marco feel pain. Marine's power has become stronger again. Marco flashed to the side. Marco, who do you think this bamboo dragonfly is stronger than your flying ability? Joes held back his smile and became cautious. Only Marco was the one who was qualified to answer. The people around also looked over one after another, wanting to know Marco's judgment. How do I know? It's hard to judge just a picture, but Marine can fly at such a high altitude and still be able to attack. It proves that they have the ability to move freely in the air. Marco gave the answer cautiously. Just this sentence has actually surprised everyone. At least it proves that the bamboo dragonfly is recognized by Marco. It looks like we're going to have a lot harder time going forward. Someone sighed. Even the atmosphere at the banquet became much lower. Does just a little gadget make you depressed? The burly man sitting on the throne curled the corners of his mouth and grinned. The sound reached everyone's ears. Only then did they realize that they had just acted too frustrated. It is clear that he has not yet seen his opponent, and he has already become worried. How can this be called Whitebeard's son? That's right, there are daddy in us who are not afraid of anything. Quote, what about bamboo dragonflies? If Marine dares to use this, let's beat them down like mosquitoes. The sound of cheering and cheering for a while is endless. Whitebeard looked at everything in front of him with satisfaction, which is the posture that young people should have. However, there was also a concern in Whitebeard's mind. If one day he is gone, will the Whitebeard pirate chart still survive? Can these families who gather to drink still be able to keep smiling? The harder it is, the more worthy of the challenge. You have to remember that. Whitebeard's gaze looked in a certain direction. He vaguely felt that Ace was in that direction. Ace is probably still hunting Blackbeard. Obviously he has banned Ace from shooting. I can only hope that Ace is safe and sound. Today, Whitebeard has plans to entrust everything to Ace in the near future. Only Ace can inherit it all. Otherwise, Whitebeard cannot guarantee that his pirate group will be able to be so united in the future. New World Cake Island. Family banquets are also held here. The difference is that the only one who binge eats is Auntie alone. As long as it is a delicious dessert, it is a favorite of Auntie. The rest of the family members have a very small appetite, perhaps because the ant's eating appearance makes them have a psychological shadow, and subconsciously does not want to become like this. After 3 hours, Auntie finally stopped eating. Linlin, Marine's latest scientific achievement, a piece of equipment called the bamboo dragonfly, can make people fly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longbread put the newspaper in front of his aunt. Only after Auntie eats dessert can she have the opportunity to report to her. Otherwise, disturbing the end of Auntie's meal is extremely miserable. The family members all looked solemn, and they had already learned the news. Marine's new gear. Hee. It seems to be quite interesting. After reading the newspaper, Auntie sneered. Mom, how do we cope? Marine's new equipment can cross our defenses. Katakuri spoke. Katakuri usually rarely expresses his opinion, but he is especially valued every time he speaks. Even Auntie would acknowledge Katakuri's judgment. Is the son who has attracted the most attention in the entire ant pirate group. Don't worry, Kaido, that guy is more anxious than we are. He's what Marine wants to eliminate, Auntie said with a smile. Seeing the ant's calm judgment, the children all looked at each other. Wano-kuni ideographic period. Unbelievable, how can something so small fly? Quinn touched her belly and counted her weight. As a member of the former research team Mads, Vegapunk and a colleague of Vince Moke, Quinn also has strong research capabilities. Unlike other people who only lament the magic of bamboo dragonflies, Quinn is even more curious about the principle of bamboo dragonflies. Quinn has realized that even bamboo dragonflies look small. It will definitely be able to drive his huge body. Otherwise, it would be impossible to fly to a height of thousands of meters and maintain such a terrifying speed. Even Quinn believes that this is not the limit of bamboo dragonflies. After all, Marine's operations have entered into actual combat exercises. Big brother, if you want it, I'll grab it for you. Jack smiled pleasantly like a dog. As long as he can make the big brothers happy, Jack can do anything. That's Marine's secret weapon. I'm afraid you can't find a trace when you go. How to rob it? Quinn shook his head with a wry smile. Jack touched his head, as if it made sense. This must be the newspaper exaggerating the ability of the bamboo dragonfly. How can such equipment be born? There is no need to worry too much. Kaido shook his head with disdain. Kaido doesn't know how many times he has been captured by Marine over the years, and he has never seen Marine use such equipment. Now even if it has been developed, it is impossible to have such an exaggerated effect. Hearing Kaido say this, Quinn nodded subconsciously. Quinn also didn't believe Marine had such equipment born. It's normal to worry. I even suspect that this is a new piece of equipment developed by Marine to deal with us, and that action is just an appetizer. At this time, Ember expressed the opposite opinion of Kaido. Kaido frowned when he heard this, and also fell into thought. Wano-kuni's special geography dictates that Marine is going to deal with them. There is only one way to do it, with air attacks. Having been in Wano-kuni for 20 years, Marine doesn't know how many means it used. This new equipment is used against yourself, and it sounds reasonable. To guard against this, we better prepare for the enemy from the sky. Ember knew exactly how much advantage an attack from the sky would have. Wano-kuni's absolute geographical advantage, when facing the enemy in the air, it is gone. You're right. Kaido stared at the bamboo dragonfly in the newspaper. There was no more ease and slack in his eyes. It's also rare for Kaido to take it so seriously. Let that guy investigate, he's well informed, Ember suggested. Well, just let that guy go. Kaido nodded. Dreza Ross. I will definitely investigate clearly. After hanging up the phone, the deference on Doflamingo's face faded. He resumed his frantic expression and squeezed his hand tightly to serve the newspaper. Kaido, that guy, when we are who we are. Feel free to instruct the less master. The people around me are indignant. Although they are a partnership with Kaido, they are always at a disadvantage. The other party, with the reputation of the four emperors, instructed them everywhere. This dissatisfaction is not a day or two. Kaido is very concerned about bamboo dragonflies, which surprised me. It seems that he is also worried about Wano-kuni's safety. Doflamingo chuckled. The chaotic the world, the better, and that's what Doflamingo wants to see the most. Kaido's time in Wano Kuni was a little too long. But right now Doflamingo and Kaido are a partnership, and Doflamingo can get what he wants from Kaido. So the cooperation still has to continue. The flying ability of bamboo dragonflies is a threat to Wano Kuni, and if you can enter Wano Kuni's island at will, then Wano Kuni's secret may not be hidden. Torebel sniffed and said, Wano Kuni, a place that has been closed off for 800 years. There are too many secrets hidden, as well as hidden treasures. There are many legends about Wano Kuni, and no one can be sure if it is true or not. But there are a few things that the Don Quixote family is clear about. That is, Wano Kuni craftsmen have super forging ability, including the secret of forging sea stone. Even Wano Kuni's weapons are far more powerful than ordinary arsenals. The Don Quixote family controls the underground black market, and some weapons even end up in the hands of the world government. The world government absolutely knows the origin of these weapons, but still chooses to buy them. Kaido is worried not only about Marine's attack, but also about Marine's spies. Once Marine masters these technologies, what use will Kaido have? Hehe, you're right, that's what Kaido was worried about. Doflamingo snapped his fingers. This feeling of seeing through everything makes him very comfortable. Young lord, then what should we do? Torebel asked. The other members of the family also looked concerned. The members of the Don Quixote family are all family, both prosperous and detrimental. Since Kaido has spoken, let's inquire about him. After all, we are still in the period of cooperation. Doflamingo said as he dialed the phone worm. On the other side of the phone bug is Doflamingo's spies planted inside Marine. He did not hide anything, just spoke in front of family members. It's a trust in your family. Not long after Doflamingo explained the situation, the other party returned the call. The person who developed the bamboo dragonfly is called Roy, a newly promoted Marine colonel, who was previously just an inconspicuous small role. Doflamingo leaned back in his chair with his head in his hands, seemingly having difficulty accepting the information. In order to establish Roy's identity, Doflamingo also called Guy. After all, Guy was a member of Marine R&D before and determined Roy's information. Guy said very contemptuously that Roy was an idiot who didn't understand anything, and he had almost forgotten about this person. He once beat himself up, but he was kicked out of the team because he was too stupid. Doflamingo was speechless when he heard this, and told Guy saw by the way that the bamboo dragonfly was researched by Roy. Guy was stunned for a few minutes without answering, making Doflamingo think something was wrong with the signal. It is estimated that it will take a long time for Guy to be able to digest this matter. A small character invented this magical prop. What kind of luck did Marine go, and got this kind of good thing for no reason? Doflamingo also found it hard to believe. There are quite a lot of people in the Marine R&D department, and I don't know how many research rooms and arsenals are around the world alone, and it's normal to come out with a study occasionally. Torebel said. Boom, boom. Hearing this, Doflamingo laughed loudly, but not only that, it is said that there is a subversive weapon on the Marine side, which is really exciting. Quote, Doflamingo isn't worried about the pirates becoming powerful, which means the world is more chaotic. But if the world government gets more powerful weapons, the pirates will be dealt a fatal blow. Only chaos meets Doflamingo's expectations of the world. Subversive weapons. The family members were amazed at what it was to deserve the name. Today, they are also working on man-made devil fruit and weapons of mass destruction. However, even the poison gas sprinkled by Guy is not a subversive weapon. The gas was just too indiscriminate to kill, so it was abandoned by Marine. Now to be evaluated by Marine as a subversive weapon, the effect is absolutely shocking. It's just a pity that this news Marine has been blocked. It is not yet known what it is. Doflamingo sighed. Unlike bamboo dragonflies, subversive weapons have not yet been massively equipped, and even nothing is known. The generals present that they kept the news secret. Others simply know that a powerful weapon has been developed. It is said to have the terrifying power of everything that cannot be broken. Gun, armor, or is it something else? Nothing is known about this information. The only thing that can be known is that the generals who witnessed the weapon are looking forward to the mass production of this weapon. Both moderates and hardliners want their troops to be the first to equip. It seems that Kaido's concerns are justified. Maybe this is what is used against Kaido. Toripal's expression was also much more serious. There is no more ease and casualness at the beginning. Once Kaido falls, the family's business will also suffer. The bamboo dragonfly plus a subversive weapon, if not used against Kaido, it is hard to believe that there would be such a coincidence. Doflamingo muttered. Thinking of this, Doflamingo turned around and dialed the phone leading to Wano Kuni. On the phone, he only introduced the origin of the bamboo dragonfly and the subversive weapon developed by Marine that could not be broken. Wano Kuni ideographic period. Kaido's face gradually became ugly. The three disasters next to him broke out in a cold sweat. Although Doflamingo did not elaborate Marine's intentions in creating the two weapons. But when put together, the answer is already clear. This is the beast's pirates for Wano Kuni, or Kaido. Kaido's mind comes to mind the memory of being captured by Marine. At that time, I was repeatedly tested as a guinea pig because of my strong body. It is also for this reason that the embers are recognized. The so-called immortality is actually just that Marine does not want to destroy its valuable experimental subject. It was thought that after capturing Wano Kuni, Kaido would be able to control his own destiny. Unexpectedly, Marine still did not let him go. A colonel called Roy, I can lurk at Marine headquarters to assassinate him. Jack the Drow had red eyes and a low roar. Dare to target the boss of Kaido, even if it is Marine Marshal, he dares to attack. As long as Roy is erased, then the research will not be interrupted. That so-called subversive weapon, maybe it has not been researched yet. Don't worry, I doubt the authenticity of the subversive weapon. After all, none of the Vegapunk has developed a weapon against the captain now. Quinn frowned. Marine couldn't help Kaido a long time ago. Otherwise, Beast's pirates would have been eradicated. Quinn himself had imagined whether there were any special weapons against Kaido. As a result, he racked his brains and could not do anything. The only useful thing is probably the more powerful Haki. It is only possible to surpass Kaido in terms of hard power. We still don't know the specific performance of the bamboo dragonfly, whether it can really threaten Wano Kuni, or whether we should find a way to snatch the bamboo dragonfly for research first. Ember suggested at this time. Kaido nodded at this. They always had to see the real thing to make a specific judgment. Can't let them pay attention because of a report, plus the intelligence that has been inquired. If I can grab the bamboo dragonfly, I may be able to crack the technology. Even if I can't, we can find someone to cooperate. A figure appeared in Quinn's mind. Vince Moke, this former colleague, now the king of the Kingdom of Germa. It also has super research capabilities. If it is Kaido, one of the four emperors, he proposes to form an alliance with the Kingdom of Germa. With Quinn's link to Vince Moke, I believe the other party will not refuse this proposal. In addition, the subversive weapon needs to explore the true face and then make a decision. Ember added. Only when the threat of subversive weapons is known can they respond reasonably. Doflamingo, keep an eye out for any movement of bamboo dragonflies and subversive weapons. Notify me as soon as there is news. The phone worm hasn't hung up yet, Kaido said to Doflamingo on the other side. Kaido has taken the Three Plagues proposal, especially Ember's idea. If you have the chance, do you want me to make a move? Doflamingo grinned and asked lightly. However, the phone worm that turned into Kaido's appearance looked cold. No need. Beast's pirates will be hands-on. Quote, as soon as the words fell, the phone worm was hung up. Doflamingo and the Don Quixote family looked at each other. They all saw the look of surprise on each other's faces. Beast's pirates is going to do it themselves. This is the four emperors' pirates about to act. It looks like the world is about to change. The exposure of bamboo dragonflies directly attracted worldwide attention. Even the four emperors became sad. It's just that Roy doesn't know about changes in the outside world. Because he is focusing on production, now the second batch of bamboo dragonflies has been mass-produced. Previously, due to insufficient raw materials, the mass production of bamboo dragonflies was suspended. However, Sengoku suddenly called again and said that the production of bamboo dragonflies should be carried out first, and the lightsaber could be suspended. Roy was given great authority to mobilize materials needed to produce bamboo dragonflies. Although Roy is eager to produce a lightsaber first, he can't disobey Sengoku's orders. After all, Sengoku is now Roy's cash cow, and the requirements still have to be met. Fortunately, Now that Roy has 3 billion funds, in addition to purchasing materials for the production of bamboo dragonflies and lightsabers, he has spent 2,120 million. Wu Yi was also left for the next scientific research backup. The remaining 380 million were all used to upgrade the equipment of the arsenal. Even Jarvis's ability is more perfect than before. The speed of production and R&D is also faster than before. Therefore, the manufacturing time of the second batch of bamboo dragonflies is more than twice as fast. After notifying Marine for acceptance, Roy began preparing for mass production of the lightsaber, this time in tandem with the bamboo dragonfly. Roy had already made up his mind, even if Sengoku spoke again, and asked him to make bamboo dragonflies first. I didn't agree to it myself. Let's just say that the equipment is already occupied and cannot be replaced. Anyway, Sengoku doesn't understand technical things, so it's certainly easy to prevaricate. What Roy didn't expect was that in just 10 minutes, Marine sent someone to accept it. And these two people came to Roy very surprised. Momoshiki and the T-Dolphin. These two names are actually the code names of two people in Marine. Named after colors and animals, this is the code name of the Admiral level. Of course, these two people are not Admiral, but Admiral backups. Once Admiral's position becomes vacant, Marine customarily selects a replacement from among them. Sending these two Vice Admiral proves that Marine values bamboo dragonflies. I'm Momoshiki, and I'm receiving the bamboo dragonfly on the orders of the big sister. Momoshiki smiled cheerfully at Roy and held out his hand. At the same time, Maimu eyelashes blinked, looking Roy up and down. Roy knew that the big sister in Momoshiki's mouth was Vice Admiral. The difference in appearance between the two is quite large, but they are called sisters. Momoshiki has a mature temperament that will be the focus wherever he goes. When we first met, I was Roy from Scientific R&D. Roy also stretched out his hand and felt the softness of his palm. At the previous Marine conference, Momoshiki and T-Dolphin did not attend. So this was actually their first meeting, and Roy was too low in rank to reach Momoshiki and others. Even the average Vice Admiral wasn't something Roy could see. I didn't expect Brother Roy to be so young and handsome. Really representative of Marine's younger generation. As soon as Momoshiki met, he admired Roy. This handsome appearance, clean and tidy white coat, elegant and gentle temperament, in this all-strong Marine high-rise, can be described as standing out. It's a prize, I can't call it a representative, it's just a small person. Roy knows where he is now. Everywhere, the top of Marine often mentions your name now, you are not a small person. Momoshiki was also a bit surprised, not expecting Roy to be so modest. In the face of his own praise, he also had no pride at all. Just do your job. Roy is still light. On the contrary, this look made Momoshiki more satisfied. First meeting, I'm a T-Dolphin. At this time, the T-Dolphin squeezed in from behind and said. Standing abruptly between the two people, they had to separate. It turned out to be a T-Dolphin senior. Roy responded politely. Don't bother with this guy, he's just cheeky to come and see the fun. Momoshiki sighed, looking rather helpless. Roy understood Momoshiki well and had heard the rumor as well. It is said that the T-Dolphin confessed to Momoshiki 100 times, but all of them were rejected. Don't say that, I'm also interested in Marine's latest research. The T-Porpoise was caught off guard and made himself look less embarrassed. The Marshal has already informed me, let's complete the task first. After the pleasantries, Roy invited two people into the factory. Of course, they will not be taken to the production workshop, but to the warehouse where the finished product is kept. There don't seem to be many people here. The T-Dolphin looked left and right, very curious. With the exception of Roy, there are only a few factory warehouses, which appear empty. There is also no trace of human activity. When it comes to production secrets, there is no comment on this issue. Roy smiled lightly. I have long thought of ways to deal with it. Production secrets. The T-Porpoise almost spewed out. Where did he want to inquire about secrets? Just a little curious. You came to see the excitement, don't ask if you shouldn't. Momoshiki was a little dissatisfied. Isn't this to make trouble? My fault, my fault. After being reprimanded, the T-Dolphin lowered his head, like a child who made a mistake. The eyes are also looking ahead, and they dare not look randomly anymore. Roy, I heard you've developed another weapon. Momoshiki asked. Momoshiki also heard Suru Vice Admiral mention it, but Suru Vice Admiral did not say specifics. Well, it's a weapon called a lightsaber, and now Mr. Sengoku has ordered the intelligence to be blocked, probably with the third batch of bamboo dragonflies. Roy didn't explain much either. Lightsaber. Momoshiki's eyes lit up. She was also a master of swordsmanship herself. Now he carries a knife around his waist, the Golden Pura. The quality is unknown, but it is definitely a famous knife level. Although the T-Dolphin does not use a sword, he is also very interested in lightsaber. Because they remember that Suru Vice Admiral's face was full of unconcealed excitement when he mentioned the new weapon. This expression rarely appears on the face of Suru Vice Admiral, who has always been known for his steadiness. In the blink of an eye, Roy had led them to the door of the warehouse. The second batch of bamboo dragonflies is inside. Roy opens the door. Both Momoshiki and the T-Dolphin are curious and can't wait to see what the bamboo dragonfly really looks like. They've only heard of it, but they haven't seen it. I didn't even see the news in the newspaper, and after returning to Marine headquarters after completing the mission, I was arranged to receive the bamboo dragonfly. However, when the door of the warehouse opened, the two people looked confused. Spacious warehouse, inside turned out to be empty. What's going on? Could it be stolen? The T-Dolphin's face changed. This is the island where Marine is headquartered. Dare someone to steal here, it's too daring. In particular, this is Marine's latest scientific research achievement, which has caused a sensation in the world. At worst, there are crooks inside Marine. Momoshiki wanted to speak, but found Roy's expression calm. If it was really the bamboo dragonfly that was stolen, then Roy must be the most anxious. Roy, the bamboo dragonfly isn't here. Momoshiki breathed a sigh of relief. I'll get it for you later, Roy said as he came to the corner of the warehouse. An ordinary sack was lifted and placed in front of two people. What does this mean? Momoshiki was puzzled. The bamboo dragonfly is inside. Roy looked like a matter of course. I'm talking about the flying machine, the one that can make a person fly into the sky. Momoshiki gestured up and down. According to Momoshiki's imagination, this kind of flying machine must be very complex and not small. Otherwise, it is impossible to let a person fly into the sky. Cross-era aircraft, Marine's secret weapon. How can such a high-tech product be packed in a sack? This is a bamboo dragonfly, and 100 of them are in it. Roy repeated helplessly. Momoshiki and Chigu looked at each other wide-eyed, and their eyes were all shocked. Are all the bamboo dragonflies in this? A whole 100 bamboo dragonflies are in it. You're not kidding, are you? The T-Dolphin couldn't help but say. Roy looked at Momoshiki and the T-Dolphin and knew that the two of them had never seen a bamboo dragonfly. Show me and you'll understand. Opening the sack, Roy took out a bamboo dragonfly. Momoshiki then saw the appearance of the bamboo dragonfly. It's less than 10 centimeters tall, which is about the width of a palm. It looks like a child's toy. Such a small thing can actually make people fly. If nothing else, how to solve the energy problem alone. Momoshiki is not a scientist, but he knows some common sense. But Momoshiki doesn't question it, trusting Roy. This thing can't fly. The T-Dolphin was shocked and looked disbelieving. If you change to another person, tell yourself that this bamboo dragonfly can fly. Then the T-Dolphin will not hesitate to think that the other party is a liar. Now it's just questioning, and it's already giving Roy face. Don't dictate things you don't understand. Momoshiki scolded the T-Porpoise. The T-Porpoise is very wronged in his heart, and it is clear that this cannot fly. I just question it normally, why am I angry with myself? Roy understands that this kind of cross-era scientific research products, only let them see the effect with their own eyes, they will believe. I remember the first time I faced Sengoku and introduced myself to the bamboo dragonfly. Sengoku had the same expression. With the bamboo dragonfly mounted on the head, Roy's appearance looks funny to the T-Dolphin. Stop messing around here, hurry up and get the real bamboo dragonfly out. The T-Dolphin is out of patience. Marine Vice Admiral, Admiral Alternate. I didn't come here to see a play. T-Porpoise, does Colonel Roy look like a joke? Momoshiki really got angry this time. She couldn't see the slightest sense of being teasing them from Roy. This is a bamboo dragonfly, it's hard to believe. The T-Dolphin muttered softly. Momosuke wanted to continue reprimanding the T-Dolphin when he saw Roy waving at them. After you see the effect, the misunderstanding can be resolved. Roy smiled slightly. In the next second, the bamboo dragonfly above his head began to operate. Roy slowly flew up under the shocked gazes of the two people. In order to thoroughly demonstrate the effect of bamboo dragonflies, Roy also came to an air show. It's like a fighter, doing all kinds of emergency stop flips and the like. It can rotate 360 degrees. And such a fast speed. Porpoise. No wonder Big Sister is so happy, this bamboo dragonfly is too strong. Momosuke's eyes were shocked. With the sensitivity of the bamboo dragonfly, it can even be used in battle, not just raids. After Roy fell, Momosuke couldn't wait to ask about the specific performance of the bamboo dragonfly. You can control the direction with your mind, but you don't have to be deliberate, it's like walking. Roy gushed. In addition to how to use the bamboo dragonfly, the fastest speed and duration are also described. As for the charging method, solar charging is adopted. Can I try it? Momosuke is looking forward to it. Of course. Roy nodded, removed the bamboo dragonfly from his head, and handed it to Momosuke. Momosuke was thrilled to think that this was what Roy had just used. It's even more strange. After Roy placed the bamboo dragonfly above his head, Momosuke felt an aura around him. Under this aura, he freed himself from the shackles of the earth. This is the anti-gravity field of the bamboo dragonfly. Relax with thought control and let yourself fly. Roy reminded. Momosuke nodded and allowed himself to relax. Her body slowly flew into the air. In just a few seconds, Momosuke was in full control of the flight. Although he can't do the same movements as Roy, he can fly at high speed. After more than 10 minutes of experience, Momosuke landed on the ground. That's awesome. That's awesome. Momosuke couldn't contain his excitement. The face was even redder, directly to the root behind the ear. Looks extremely shy. Momosuke, use it for me too. The T-Dolphin is very hungry. And who doesn't want to experience this ability to fly? Go beg Roy yourself, I don't have the power to dispose of these bamboo dragonflies. Momosuke shook his head and returned the bamboo dragonfly to Roy. The T-Dolphin is very humiliated, but he is the admiral replacement. Let yourself go and ask for a marine colonel. How does this pull the lower face? Seeing that the T-Dolphin did not react for a long time, Roy also directly put this bamboo dragonfly into the sack. He didn't mind letting the T-Dolphin experience it too, but the T-Dolphin didn't seem to mean it. Do you still need to count the numbers? Roy asked as he handed the sack to Momosuke. No, I trust you. Momosuke smiled at Roy. The eyes reveal a feeling of intimacy. Momosuke feels that he is becoming more and more fond of Roy, perhaps as an appreciation for his juniors or something else. Well, if there is any problem, you can come to me and I will solve it. Roy nodded too. These bamboo dragonflies, collected by a small robot controlled by Jarvis, are definitely not wrong in number. Roy said this to show his kindness to Momosuke. Let's say that this batch of bamboo dragonflies is damaged on the road, or something else. Momosuke came to find himself, and he could help. Thank you, Roy. Momosuke couldn't understand Roy's kindness. It's just a trifle. Roy smiled and waved his hand. As soon as the door of the warehouse was closed, Momosuke looked like he remembered something. What's the problem? Roy wondered. Didn't you also develop another weapon called a lightsaber? Is there a finished product now? Momosuke plucked up the courage to say. This should be considered a production secret. Just now, the T-Dolphin was just curious about the fact that there was no one in the factory, so Roy was beaten without comment. Momosuke felt that if he asked for a lightsaber, he would definitely be rejected by Roy. After all, the lightsaber was ordered by Sengoku himself to prohibit leaking secrets. Yes, Roy nodded, although the previous sample was left by 5 elders. But now the lightsabers have also been put into production, and there are already more than a dozen finished products. Can you show me, please? Momosuke clasped his hands and put on a pitiful look. Seeing this scene, the T-Dolphin's jaw almost fell to the ground. He and Momosuke have also been colleagues for many years. When did you ever see Momosuke and put on this girly look? Okay, Roy nodded, and Momosuke was a bit of a top. Thank you. Momosuke stepped forward and put his arm around Roy and patted Roy on the shoulder. In Momosegi's view, Roy is giving himself enough face. In fact, there is also a misunderstanding of Momosegi. For Roy, the lightsaber thing is not a secret. At least a few dozen people know about this. But any information about their own factories, this is absolutely confidential and cannot be leaked in the slightest. The T-Dolphin's eyes were about to pop out, he had never been so close to Momosegi. And Roy only has one feeling, that is, how big. Overwhelming himself, Momosegi took half a day to let go. Ahem, the finished products have not yet been transported to the warehouse in the arsenal, I'll go get one first. Roy tells the two men to wait here first and go get the lightsaber himself. After Roy left, the T-Dolphin was also cheeky. Momosegi, let me try bamboo dragonflies too. Quote, no, ask Roy yourself, I don't have the right to dispose of it, I'll hand it over to Big Sister later. Momosegi looked at the T-Porpoise's expectant eyes and directly refused. Where can the T-Dolphin still pull the lower face to beg Roy? I can only hope that I will be able to assign bamboo dragonflies in the future. A few minutes later Roy returned. What about lightsabers? Momosegi looked Roy up and down, not carrying any weapons. He lied to you just now, how could he show you the lightsaber? The T-Dolphin took the opportunity to make a mockery. Roy looked at the T-Porpoise strangely, not knowing where he had offended him. Is it because the T-Dolphin was not allowed to try the bamboo dragonfly just now? But this is the T-Dolphin himself did not speak, Roy can't force the bamboo dragonfly into his hand. There must be some accident, it's nothing if you can't see the lightsaber, I'll come back next time. Momosegi was also a little disappointed. There was not the slightest dissatisfaction with Roy between the words. This actually makes the T-Dolphin more sour. In general, doesn't Momosegi have to get angry? Oh, I brought the lightsaber, right here, Roy said, drawing the hilt of his sword from his waist. Haha, this is a lightsaber. We're not easy to deceive. The T-Dolphin clasped his hands in front of him, ready to watch the show. Momosegi didn't mind, but reached out and took the hilt of his sword from Roy's hand. What do you know, the finished product must not have come out yet, now there are only semi-finished products, this is the hilt of the sword. Momosegi played with the hilt of his sword and was interested. And pinched the hilt of the sword and tried to swing, it felt good. It's like a weapon you've been using for years. Cut, not fooling you yet, the T-Dolphin said disdainfully. Actually, this is the finished product, you need to press the switch before the lightsaber will pop out from the hilt. Roy stepped forward. Holding Momosegi's hand, he pressed the switch. A burst of electric sound sounded, and in the next instant, the pillar of light popped out directly. Wow, this is a real lightsaber. Momosegi was taken aback. The petite body followed with a shock, and touched Roy's arm again. Now even the T-Dolphin did not have time to be jealous, but stared closely at the lightsaber. The invisible fluctuations emanating from the lightsaber contain mysterious and powerful power that is difficult to believe. He couldn't help but be fascinated. Can I give it a try? The excitement on Momosegi's face couldn't be stopped. Of course, just use that. Roy pointed to a pile of scrap iron outside the wall. Those are some production waste, all metal. But it's all scrap iron. What famous knife can't cut iron? Is this the strength of the lightsaber you developed? The T-Dolphin is still mocking. Not to mention famous swords, even if they are ordinary swords. In the hands of a powerful swordsman, you can also chop melons and cut vegetables. Momosegi could only sigh, it seemed that the T-Porpoise was jealous again. As long as they are closer to men, then T-Dolphins will have great hostility. Sorry, this guy is so annoying, next time I'll dump him and we'll be alone. Momosegi apologized. Nothing, I don't mind. Roy shook his head. Hearing Momosegi say this, Roy understood why the dolphin was angry. After a long day, did it turn out that he regarded himself as a love rival? Roy could only smile bitterly at this. Although Momosegi is a big beauty, both in appearance and temperament are top-notch, especially the body is even more vigorous. But now all my thoughts are on researching scientific research products. Call. After receiving Roy's answer, Momosegi breathed a sigh of relief and walked to the pile of scrap metal with a lightsaber in hand. While hesitating how to chop, Roy spoke again. In fact, with the power of the lightsaber, there is no need to slash at all, and the lightsaber can be dropped vertically to penetrate these metals. Roy explained. Just drop it, you can penetrate. Momoshiki is still in disbelief. As a swordsman, she has seen many famous swords in her life. But none of them have such sharpness. Even those weapons that are tempered into black knives with haki can't do this. If the lightsaber really possesses this ability, wouldn't it be the strongest sword in the world? But after seeing the magic of the bamboo dragonfly, Momoshiki felt that it was not impossible. The T-Dolphin did not speak, and his expression was a little disbelieving. It's just that this time the T-Dolphin decided to wait first, so as not to upset Momoshiki again. The next time he really throws himself away, then he can only find a place to cry. Momoshiki slowly let go of his hand, and the lightsaber fell on a piece of metal. The next moment, the piece of metal was like bread and was easily pierced by a lightsaber. T-Dolphin and Momoshiki were surprised and came to check. This lightsaber is too powerful. After Momoshiki drew his lightsaber, he didn't feel happy. With a few casual swings at the pile of metal on the ground, the pile of metal turned into iron filings. The T-Dolphin had no words at all, and if he continued, he could only humiliate himself. Can you give me this sword? Momoshiki wields his lightsaber with fondness in his eyes. Any swordsman wants to have a supreme divine weapon. Now this lightsaber meets all swordsmen's fantasies about weapons. No, lightsabers are available in quantities, and you can't give them away casually. Roy shook his head. Lightsabers are not the same as bamboo dragonflies and have not yet been equipped. Sengoku also attaches great importance to lightsabers, so he can't give them away yet. Roy also didn't want Sengoku to see that someone had equipped a lightsaber, so wouldn't that mess with Sengoku's plans? Okay, Momoshiki was a little lost. When he returned the lightsaber to Roy, he also looked reluctant. Roy simply took the hilt of his sword and hung it around his waist. When the T-Dolphin saw this scene, he was also secretly happy. In other words, he had already given the lightsaber both hands. Now that the bamboo dragonfly has been delivered, please leave. Here Roy even more simply issued an eviction order. Continue to let these two people stay in the arsenal, who knows what else to be curious about. I didn't have so much time to greet them. I have a hunch that we will have a lot of intersection in the future. Momoshiki patted Roy on the shoulder and walked away with the sack. Just after leaving the arsenal, the T-Dolphin couldn't wait. This Roy is too stingy. Sooner or later the lightsaber will be equipped in marine on a large scale, and he won't give you one. The T-Dolphin sighed while shaking his head. What's wrong? If it were you, would you send it? Momoshiki looked at the T-Porpoise with a smirk. Of course, whatever you want, I'll get it for you. The T-Dolphin was waiting for this opportunity, and hurriedly offered his courtesy. What Chigu didn't expect was that Momoshiki's expression immediately turned into contempt. No principle at all. A principled man like Colonel Roy is the model for Marine. Quote. Between Momoshiki's words, he did not hesitate to praise Roy. The T-Dolphin received a 10,000-point critical hit. I understand that in Momoshiki's eyes, I am completely inferior to Roy. More than a dozen days later, a familiar voice sounded in Roy's head. Lightsaber mass production completed 50%. Congratulations to host for unlocking the third technology product Shondo. Fairy Bean. A magical plant in the world of Dragon Ball, cultivated by a cat immortal living in Kalanta. The appearance belongs to broad beans. As long as you eat one, you can quickly recover from injuries, instantly restore physical strength and energy, and readjust your body to the best state. Congratulations to host for his luck. Xion Bean has been upgraded. Life and death, human flesh and bones, cured all diseases. Roy, who was originally standing in the office and sitting, suddenly stood up and couldn't stop being excited. Fairy beans. This is fairy beans. The magical items that run through the entire world of Dragon Ball have never exited the stage from beginning to end. Because he was so excited, Roy didn't pay attention to the introduction of the system. After all, Roy is very familiar with Shondo, and he doesn't need to listen to any popular science at all. He did not find that the technology he obtained was an upgraded version of Xion. Jarvis, calculate R&D funding. Roy said immediately. Yes, a small robot in front of Roy responded. This little thing 20 centimeters tall is certainly not the entity of Jarvis. Its body is a supercomputer, which is installed inside the factory. Small robots are just props to facilitate communication. R&D funds are about 100 million, and the error is no more than 10 million. After more than a dozen seconds, Jarvis gave the answer. Wu Yi. Roy almost squirted, which is also too expensive. How can the cost be so high? Roy asked. The development of fairy beans involves the fields of plants and biology, requires additional manufacturing equipment, and raw materials are very expensive. Jarvis's mechanical voice, without the slightest emotion. This is also too expensive, a whole 100 million. Roy's heart is dripping blood. Could it be that the system calculated, and he was left with Wu Yi? Can't you put it all in, won't you become poor again? R&D is so expensive. Later mass production is definitely not cheap. To be on the safe side, Roy decided to go to Sengoku first for funding. Let's see how much Sengoku is willing to give, and then think about the next move. Now in Roy's hands, there is also a group of soldiers. Probably more than 100 people. In peacetime, he is stationed around the arsenal to be responsible for security, and cannot enter the arsenal without an order. So he didn't worry that after he left, someone would infiltrate the arsenal. Colonel. The soldiers outside the arsenal were also extremely respectful when they saw Roy come out. All of them are tall, and the military salute is very standard. Without saying a word, Roy walked through the soldiers with his hands in his pockets and walked towards Marine headquarters. This is Marines' practice and does not require a response to subordinates. After watching Roy leave, the soldiers were excited. This is the scientist in Marine, second only to Vegapunk. Sengoku's current celebrities enjoy special treatment. I'm afraid that the future achievements are infinite, and we will not be able to catch up in our lifetime. The soldiers were amazed, and they felt that Roy's back was very tall. It is their honor to serve Roy. The cross-era equipment bamboo dragonfly was created by this scientist. Although Roy walked away, he also heard the voices of the soldiers and smiled bitterly. Now Roy also knows that the bamboo dragonfly has been leaked by the newspaper. He was not surprised. How could this technology be concealed? I just didn't think about it for a few days, and the whole world already knew. I am afraid that those who have intentions already know that the bamboo dragonfly was invented by themselves. Roy didn't want to be famous, at least not at this stage. However, the turbulent waves of the times, Roy cannot stop now. Marine headquarters, Marshal's office. Roy is here, let him in. Quote. When he heard the report from the communicator at the door, Sengoku looked happy. When Roy came in, he found that a combat meeting was being held here. There were not many people in the office, Garp, Suru and Momoshiki. But they are all old qualifications in Marine now. When I saw Roy, I was smiling. I met again, and my hunch has always been accurate. Momoshiki was the first to say hello. He stepped forward and hugged Roy, showing great enthusiasm. This scene left several other people dumbfounded. When have you ever seen Momoshiki look like this? And it seems that the enthusiasm is a little too much, and the squeezed Roy blush. After Momoshiki let go, Roy had a chance to greet everyone. Boy, is there progress in the lightsaber this time, just give the old man 5 after the finished product, this is not much. Garp gestured with his large palm. Garp, you're purely here to make trouble, what do you want a lightsaber for? Sengoku was furious all of a sudden. Originally, this meeting had nothing to do with Garp. It was Sengoku who wanted to negotiate with Suru and Momoshiki, and Garp cheekily barged in. Say you want to observe, give opinions and so on. In fact, Sengoku knows that Garp is just idle and boring. Unexpectedly, now that Roy came, Garp opened his mouth and actually asked for 5 lightsabers. Garp is not a swordsman. Last time, Garp snatched Sengoku's bamboo dragonfly and said that he would return it to himself after playing for 2 days. Sengoku could only rely on boats and walk for 2 days, which was very uncomfortable. 2 days later, Sengoku immediately snatched the bamboo dragonfly back, and Garp said that he was stingy. Now this account has not yet been calculated. Although the old man does not like to use swords, but many of the old man's students are swordsmanship masters, these lightsabers were given by me to the students, which is also to send talents to Marine. Garp said as he scratched his nose. Seeing Garp's attitude, Sengoku was even more furious. Nope, as long as Sengoku is a marshal for a day, it will definitely not work. Quote. Forget it, I'm just joking, don't take it seriously. Garp saw that Sengoku was really angry, and hurriedly put on a smiley face. Once you really anger Sengoku, I'm afraid you won't want to come in. Sengoku's anger diminished when he heard Garp's assurance. Colonel Roy, how's the lightsaber production progressing? Suru asked. It will be done in about 3 days. This is the data that Jarvis told Roy, and there will definitely be no mistakes. 3 days. Hearing this, Sengoku and others couldn't help but be overjoyed. That's much faster than they could have imagined. It was thought that it would take at least a few months for a weapon such as a lightsaber to be equipped. It's you. Didn't disappoint me. Sengoku was pleased. The fact that the lightsaber can be mass-produced in such a quick time means that Marine's strength can be quickly strengthened. Now in the world, it has been rumored that Marine has a subversive weapon in development. Because secrecy was in place, no one except some people at the Marine top knew that it was a lightsaber. But when someone suspects that you have a subversive weapon, you'd better have one. Marshal, I still need some money here. Seeing the Marshal's happy look, Roy immediately took the opportunity to say. Still need money. Is there not enough money to make a lightsaber? Sengoku was also mentally prepared the moment he met Roy. Otherwise Roy showed up here for what? But how long has it been, and 3 billion funds have actually run out. The speed at which this money is spent is also terrifying. Even Vegapunk couldn't burn out such a large sum of money in a short period of time. Well, now there is no money. Roy nodded in acknowledgement. 3 billion. A whole 3 billion is gone. It's less than a month. Sengoku was incredulous. Garp and the others were also completely stunned when they heard such a large amount. I developed a new emergency treatment, which cost a lot of money. Roy explained. It is more appropriate to describe fairy beans as therapeutic samples. Roy couldn't say it was food or something. Emergency treatment medicine. Sengoku was surprised. Before that, Roy had researched products like bamboo dragonflies and lightsabers. The difference between the medicine and the previous two is also too great. Sengoku is also well aware that the knowledge involved is completely different. Well, this medicine can instantly restore injuries and physical strength, maintain the body in the best state, and also provide energy for 10 days, and it is no problem not to eat or drink during this time. Roy spoke out about the original efficacy of the fairy beans. He didn't notice that the ability of the immortal beans he developed now has been further improved. It sounds incredible, but since it's your product, you can definitely do it. Sengoku thinks this effect is too exaggerated. But Roy's previous products have proven Roy's capabilities. So even if it's an exaggeration, Sengoku trusts Roy a lot. Wait a minute, this medicine won't have any side effects. Suru frowned and questioned. Suru's question also immediately alerted Sengoku. There is a drug circulating on the black market, the origin of which is unknown. It can greatly increase physical strength, so that a person's strength can be rapidly improved in a short period of time. The price is to destroy the human body, and repeated consumption will cause irreversible injury, disability and even death. Outlaws like to use the drug at critical moments to fight for themselves to the foreline. But Marine will never use this method to increase the combat effectiveness of its soldiers. Suru's question also alerted both Sengoku and Garp. Once it has side effects, the presence of that fairy bean will not be accepted by Marine. People like Sengoku and Garp have a strong sense of justice. He will not allow any drugs to harm his soldiers. The medicine made by Roy will not be a problem. Momoshiki expressed support for Roy at this time. In Momoshiki's mind, Roy is a role model for young Marine. It is impossible to develop such a product. I believe in Roy too, but it takes Roy to say it himself. This is no small matter, and Sengoku needs assurances from Roy. Shondo has no side effects at all, and is a natural and pollution-free product. Roy said confidently. If there is anything wrong with Sendo, it may be dependence. This dependence is not what the fairy beans themselves contain. It's the ability of Sendo to be too powerful. In the world of Dragon Ball, fairy beans were originally used as food. Later, too many people used it, and they ate the inventory abruptly, and it became a scarce commodity. Stuff is good, it's just. Sengoku touched his chin and was very troubled. From the perspective of the function of Shondo, R&D funds will certainly not be less. If another 3 billion comes, Sengoku will vomit blood. Even Vegapunk didn't have that treatment. How much money do you need to develop fairy beans? Sengoku finally had to ask directly. However, he has no confidence in his heart, and the price of this drug will definitely be very high. Roy held out 2 fingers. 2 billion. Sengoku was taken aback. That's a huge amount of money, and Sengoku doesn't even know how to apply. When they heard Sengoku shout 2 billion, Garp and others were also surprised. I can't imagine that scientific research funds actually cost such a large amount of money. How much the bamboo dragonfly and lightsaber costed, they didn't dare to imagine. It seems that these powerful scientific research products, that is also expensive. But these produced things are definitely worth the money, and the effect is not measurable with money. It's 200 million, I still have some money there, Roy said helplessly. Seeing Sengoku's reaction, Roy knew he didn't have much money left for himself. If these 200 million are to come, they should be their own reserve funds. That's good, I'll allocate money to you today. Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. 2 billion Sengoku can't get it, 200 million is still possible. Without consulting the 5 elders, Sengoku himself can use his power to transfer Marine's funds to the past 200 million. Anyway, the fairy beans are produced and equipped into the Marine team. It's nothing more than left-handed to right-handed, it's essentially the same thing. There's Mr. Sengoku. Roy breathed a sigh of relief. This trip myself, I finally didn't go back empty-handed. By the way, it really only takes 3 days to mass-produce a lightsaber. Sengoku asked with concern. Only when the lightsaber is officially equipped with Marine will Sengoku be able to apply for more funds for Roy. With samples alone, no matter how magical it is, it must be able to equip Marine on a large scale to improve Marine's combat effectiveness. Well, it's not more than a week, and if everything goes well, it's 3 days. Roy doesn't think anything should go wrong. Unless there is an accident such as a large-scale power outage, or someone attacks the arsenal. Roy felt that there were no pirates or revolutionary troops who dared to enter Marineford. He also had to return to the arsenal to start research on Sendo, so Roy took his leave. Chapter 21. After Roy left, the expression on Sengoku's face eased a lot. To be honest, I never had this nerve when I was hunting Roger and the 4 emperors on the sea. For Roy, Sengoku is both expectant and scared now. Looking forward to Roy bringing him good news for Ali. Scared to reach out for money, Sengoku really doesn't have much money now. As soon as the mouth is opened, it is measured in billions, who can withstand this? Haha, this is the price of your becoming a marshal, let's go with good troubles next. Garp gloated. If I really had that much power, I would have transferred you away a long time ago, and being by my side would only get in the way. Sengoku said angrily. Seeing this scene, Suru and Momoshiki both showed a knowing smile. No matter what time, these 2 people still like to fight so much. 3 days later, the news that the first mass-produced lightsaber was about to be equipped was circulating wildly among the Marine high level. Those vice admirals who had seen lightsabers were communicating privately. All of them can't wait, hoping to get their lightsabers. They all know the power of lightsabers, and it is not an exaggeration to call it the strongest sword in the world. Marine will become more powerful than ever. Grand Line Com Belt, Daughter's Island. Hancock, do something to respond. Mother-in-law urged a little anxiously. At this time, in the harbor of Daughter's Island, a warship was docked. As a rule, no men are allowed on the island. So no man on this warship can get off the ship. The man on board the warship is Vice Admiral. As a representative of Marine, Hancock was invited to board the warship to attend the Shichibukai conference. 6 hours have passed now, and Hancock has yet to make a decision. Mother-in-law is already a little anxious, at least to give Marine a message. Hancock, sitting on the king's seat, frowned. Hancock understood the importance of the Shichibukai conference, and the world government rarely issued such edicts. If it refuses, it will give the world government a very bad impression. Add to that the crocodile affair, and the world government will have reason to wonder if it is rebellious. The concubine does not want to go to the Holy Land. Sandersonia and Marigold tell Marine that the concubine refuses to attend the Shichibukai meeting. After thinking for a moment, Hancock gave his answer. Sister Wise, we don't want to go to that place in the Holy Land. The two sisters agreed with Hancock and turned to inform Marine. Mother-in-law sighed. Going to the Shichibukai conference is of course more beneficial to the daughter island. In particular, the location of the daughter's island is also very close to the Holy Land. However, in this matter, mother-in-law Zhao had no way to persuade Hancock. Because the Holy Land is the place that the Hancock sisters will never want to think back to. That miserable life as a slave was a nightmare of a lifetime. Hancock didn't want to go to the Holy Land again, and Grandma could understand it. On the other side, at the port, Vice Admiral is also very anxious. But Vice Admiral's anxiety wasn't that Hancock hadn't heard from him yet. It's this group of guys around you. Vice Admiral, can we still see the female emperor today? Quote, after the last time we met, I have been her slave all my life. Is Snake G really that beautiful? Wouldn't it be too exaggerated? Quote, what Snake G, call me Lord Queen. Whether you've seen Hancock or those who haven't, they're looking forward to it now. Hearing the chirping of the soldiers, the squirrel frowned. With such a little pattern, how can you become an excellent Marine? Although the squirrel himself is looking forward to it, he will never express it. Here comes someone. A soldier pointed ahead and shouted. Well, hearing this, the squirrel turned his head to look over, but when he saw the person coming, his eyebrows couldn't help but raise. Sure enough, as he expected, it wasn't Hancock who came, but her two sisters. They are all pirates with a bounty of 40 million, but this does not represent their strength. Since Hancock was recruited as the 7 warlords of the sea, the raiding of the 9 serpent pirates has been legalized. Even with the entire members of the 9 Snakes pirate group, the bounty has not been increased again. Sisters order. Refused to attend the 7 warlords of the sea conference. Sandersonia, as the second sister, stepped forward and said, anchor and return to Marine headquarters. Without saying a word, the squirrel directly ordered the soldiers around him to leave. For the squirrel's order, the subordinates did not slack off in the slightest. They all knew that Lord Vice Admiral had always been serious, and his orders were unquestionable. Immediately set sail, and only after leaving the daughter island did the soldiers around him dare to ask. Vice Admiral, did you leave so quickly because you didn't see the female emperor? Quote, what kind of performance the squirrel showed just now, everyone has already seen. That must have coveted the beauty of the female emperor, and now this must be done in revenge. Don't ask if you shouldn't. The squirrel said coldly. This is from the above command, do not have any negotiations with Hancock. All the squirrel has to do is convey orders. Now that Hancock has declined world government's invitation, world government will not plead in a low voice. Not to mention, made, the lightsaber is in mass production, you can't let those guys get ahead. In the mind of the squirrel, the task of the upper level is important. But for a swordsman, weapons may be even more important, which is why after receiving an answer, he does not turn his head and returns very decisively. The coast of the Amazon Lily. The warship's decisive departure left both Sandersonia and Marigold dumbfounded. This has never happened before. The two returned to the palace to report to Hancock. HMPH. Marine should not have left yet. These foul-smelling men staying for one more second is a stain on our country. Hancock said dismissively. The dislike of men is engraved in Hancock's bones. That sister, Marine left without the slightest hesitation. Sandersonia said cautiously. What, left? Hancock covered his mouth in surprise. That's right, not a word of conversation with us. Marigold spread out her hands. Hancock was blindsided, and this had never happened before. Marine has always been on the port and does not want to leave, and often needs to come forward and reprimand. This time, he actually left so decisively. The current Marine is not the Marine it used to be. Mother-in-law said with a frown and a bitter sigh. Yes, because of the appearance of the bamboo dragonfly, they have confidence. Hancock's eyes also sharpened. The bamboo dragonfly that can cross the calm belt is Marine's new bargaining chip. This means that Marine is a greatly increased threat to Daughter's Island. Able to attack Daughter's Island on a large scale without fear of an attack by Sea Kings. Similarly, you can attack by surprise. It's just a bamboo dragonfly. Don't underestimate the bows and arrows of our Amazonian female warriors. That's right, our 9 Snakes pirate group is good at bows and arrows, so we can be invincible. Quote, Sandersonia and Marigold had war in their eyes. To be looked down upon by Marine in this way is an insult to them. Hockey's arrows are their pride. That's right. If we were afraid of Marine, then the Hydra pirates would have been wiped out long ago, and Shichibukai is Shichibukai because we have this strength. Hancock said quietly. I'm afraid this is just the beginning. Mother-in-law's face was very ugly. What does this mean? Hancock frowned and stared at Grandma. Hancock's feelings for mother-in-law are complicated. Because mother-in-law made a big mistake and abandoned her identity as the Emperor of Daughter Island to pursue love. It stands to reason that such a person is not allowed to return to Daughter's Island. However, after the 3 Hancock sisters escaped from the Holy Land, they were brought back by their mother-in-law who was wandering outside. The credit of saving the way people allowed her mother-in-law to live on the island again. However, in order to make up for the mistakes of being the Emperor, mother-in-law lived in a low-key outside the village. After Hancock became Emperor, in order to express his gratitude, he made his mother-in-law a staff officer of the National Division beside him. Wisdom and foresight are the characteristics of mother-in-law. The appearance of the bamboo dragonfly may only be the beginning of Marine's strengthening, and Marine will also develop other weapons, maybe stronger than the bamboo dragonfly. Worry appeared in Grandma's eyes. Being in the calm belt relationship led them to not know about the rumors of Marine subversive weapons. But mother-in-law used her own experience to deduce the future of Shichibukai's embarrassing situation. If Marine's strength is greatly improved, then the 7 warlords of the sea, which is used to balance the sea, will seem redundant and even turn into enemies. New world, grand line somewhere. Is that weapon about to be installed? I know, I won't leak the news. The ghost spider hung up the phone, and his eyes lit up. This call was made from a friend who was still at Marine headquarters. The content is only one sentence. 3 days later, that subversive weapon is about to be unveiled. To outsiders, this phrase sounds elusive. But the ghost spider, as a witness to the original lightsaber experiment, can understand the meaning of this sentence. It shouldn't be a leak. The ghost spider grinned. It's only 3 days away, and it's almost time to get back to Marine headquarters. The call reminded the ghost spider that he couldn't continue wasting time here. Otherwise, once it is too late to go back, the first batch of lightsabers is likely to have no share of its own. Thinking of this, the ghost spider stepped out of the office and came to the deck. Looking at the sea ahead, the ghost spider frowned. This time, the ghost spider came specifically to pick up, and Hawkeye, one of Shichibukai, went to the Holy Land to attend the Shichibukai meeting. However, it has been contacted through the phone worm, and the other party has not made a decision. With that guy's temper, I'm afraid it won't come. The ghost spider muttered. I remembered that Hawkeye was called a marine hunter before he became Shichibukai. It's a pirate whose swordsmanship is even more powerful than that redhead. It was also predicted by the world government to be the least likely person to appear at this meeting. Then there is no point in continuing to Krojgana. Vice Admiral, what are your instructions? The soldier next to him asked. Turn around and return to Marine headquarters. The ghost spider shouted loudly. He can't waste his time here pointlessly, lest he lose the opportunity to distribute lightsabers. Back to Marine headquarters. Aren't we heading to Krojgana? The soldier was puzzled. In order to face Hawkeye, the soldiers were prepared. Hawkeye will definitely not go. We have to return to Marine headquarters immediately, there is no time. The ghost spider shook his head and said. Don't have time. Could it be that there are more important things, which are not something that soldiers dare to ask? Prepare to inform the helmsman immediately, turn the bow and return to Marine headquarters. At the same time, the soldier was relieved in his heart, which meant that he did not have to be with Hawkeye. That sense of oppression is not something that everyone can bear. Vice Admiral, Hawkeye called, and he accepted Shichibukai's summoning order and agreed to go to the Holy Land for the meeting. Another soldier ran out of the cabin and shouted. The ghost spider is very depressed, this Hawkeye will really pick the time. Just as he decided to return home, Hawkeye called. If it is later, the ghost spider can say that he has left, and let Hawkeye find a way to come by himself. Keep heading towards Krojgana, the ghost spider said helplessly. Fortunately, there is still time, and before the lightsaber is allocated, he can return to the Marine headquarters. The ghost spider was even more curious about why Hawkeye was attending the shichibukai meeting this time. There must be something important that made Hawkeye make up his mind. And this scene also appeared on other warships that invited shichibukai. The world government sent troops to pick up shichibukai, not to pay attention to the pirates. Instead, they feared that letting them go to the Holy Land on their own would cause unnecessary trouble along the way. Essentially, this group of people are villains, and anything can be done. Unlike other shichibukai's twisted attitudes, Ming readily accepted the invitation. Brother Ming knows very well that if you want to disrupt this era, then it is best to be in the center of power. The world government called shichibukai to a meeting, and such a good opportunity Ming will not let go. Brother Ming was a little surprised that the warship that came to pick him up looked in a hurry. Ever since he boarded the ship, the warship was heading Mariajoy at full speed. Bang bang, driving so fast, there will be no emergency, you need to return immediately. Brother Ming looked at Doberman next to him with a smile. I just don't want to stay with the notorious pirates. Doberman, who escorted him, made a disdainful sound. The notorious pirate, Brother Ming didn't care about this title at all. I don't want to stay together, then you still follow me to monitor my movements at any time, and you don't even have a knife, are you too confident in your own strength? Doflamingo grinned. The gaze behind the sunglasses flashed with a coldness. Doflamingo, you pirates' good days won't last long. Doberman snorted coldly, his eyes full of arrogance. Doberman was well aware of the massive outfit of lightsabers and bamboo dragonflies. After Ming got on the boat, every move was in Doberman's eyes. This is necessary monitoring for shichibukai. Prevent them from making any small moves. Sooner or later, world government will not need the so-called 7 warlords of the sea. When the time comes, facing this group of pirates, Doberman will be able to cut them openly. Hee, your threat is too pale, just like a child. Brother Ming still wore a smile. Mocked as a child by Brother Min, Doberman's eyes were about to spew fire. In a few days, you will know what fear is. Doberman roared in a low voice. I don't believe it. Brother Ming still doesn't care. It's just that after Doberman said these words, he regretted it in his heart. He even found that he was teased by Brother Ming. Keep talking to this guy, maybe you will leak secrets. So Doberman didn't say a word with a straight face, and no longer paid attention to Brother Ming's provocation. Don't look at Brother Ming's ease and ease, and he is also muttering secretly in his heart. Judging from Doberman's performance just now, this threat is not unfounded. Let Mingo think of the presence of subversive weapons in intelligence. Could it be that this weapon gave Doberman confidence? 3 days later, the warships escorting shichibukai back have returned to Red Line Port. 7 warlords of the sea have arrived in Mariajoy from Marine headquarters, starting with Don Quixote, Mr. Doflamingo, and Mr. Bartholomew Kuma. Quote, under the nervous gaze of many Marine, Brother Ming and Big Bear Yuya got off the boat and walked towards the conference building. Those murderous eyes around them could not pose the slightest threat to them. Whoops, I haven't been back here for a long time, Brother Ming said with a meaningful smile. Few people understood the meaning of Ming's words, as well as the hatred under the sunglasses. The last time he came to the Holy Land, Brother Ming took his father's head and wanted to return to the Holy Land home. He was greeted by being discarded as garbage. Hey, Big Bear. How do you feel here? Brother Ming asked back. The bear followed behind Brother Ming, silent. After entering the conference room, I found a corner to sit down and read. In the conference room, there were already several Marine generals. They were both participants in the meeting and came together to discuss with Shichibukai on behalf of Marine. It's just that Sengoku hasn't come yet, so the meeting hasn't officially started yet. Seeing Brother Ming and Shang, these Marine generals showed vigilant looks. Boring, Mingo muttered. After finding a place to sit down, he began to manipulate a general with string fruit, shaking his fist at the person next to him. Seeing the two people twisting together, Brother Ming felt happy. This feeling of secretly controlling everything is what Brother Ming dreams of. Seeing that the two vice admiral were fighting more and more fiercely, they were even touching each other's necks, and their faces turned red. Doflamingo, it's you who it, they're all good boys, let them go. Suru, who had been sitting quietly, spoke. Good boy, huh, Staff Officer Suru, I really lost to you. Brother Ming snapped his fingers. I saw that the two vice admiral actually pulled out their weapons. It was no longer a simple fight, but to kill people. Just as the situation was about to escalate further, Sengoku appeared. The door to the conference room was pushed open. Marine Marshal Sengoku walked in, and when he saw the chaotic scene, his face couldn't help but sank. Fooling around like this at the Shichibukai meeting, are you here to fight or for a meeting? Is this complimenting me? Brother Ming was still smiling. However, the two generals who drew their swords both felt that the power that controlled their bodies was gone. All collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. They didn't even understand how Brother Ming controlled them. Let's start the meeting. There is no point in waiting. 6 people came to 2, and the attendance has exceeded my expectations. Sengoku walked over to the Lord and sat down. Shichibukai is a bunch of guys, Sengoku knows very well. That's right, originally I didn't want to come, but the construction of the island has been too smooth recently, and I'm a little too bored. Brother Ming pretended to be indifferent. That's really bad. The more the pirates' careers develop, the more trouble we have for Marine. Sengoku stared at Brother Min. He knew very well how difficult the person in front of him was. Hehe, since your code name is Buddha Sengoku, how come there is no Buddha's compassion at all, but a sour taste? Brother Ming also sneered at each other and did not give in at all. Before the meeting could begin, the position between Shichibukai and Marine was exposed. The bear remained as silent as ever, as if all this had nothing to do with him. If Marine and Shichibukai are still hostile, then this Shichibukai meeting will not make sense. A voice sounded from the doorway position, and a man with a crossed sword on his back walked in. It's Hawkeye. When he saw Hawkeye, Sengoku was surprised. He didn't get any news from the ghost spider, and Hawkeye agreed to attend the Shichibukai meeting. Sengoku wouldn't have thought that the ghost spider was too eager to return to Marine headquarters and forgot to inform Sengoku about it. I can't imagine that even you are coming. Sengoku was still very calm. The appearance of Hawkeye was indeed an accident. But half of Shichibukai attended, which is a good thing. It's strange that the least likely person to come is also present. Brother Ming also muttered. HMPH. No fuss, I'm just here to listen, plus I'm interested in some pirate, that's all. Quote. Hawkeye said and sat down, clasping his hands together and looking like a spectator. So, is there an honor to observe below? Another voice sounded. The meeting room fell silent for a moment. The next moment, everyone couldn't help but look over. The person who spoke sat by the window, a face that had never been seen before. Of course, it would be better to have an opinion in the next. The other party smiled slightly. The Marine generals in the conference room immediately became on alert. What are you? Where did you come in? Climbed up. Quote. Is it a pirate, or a revolutionary army? The crane had already recognized the man and said, you are Lafayette. Quote. Lafayette. This familiar name reminded many Marine generals. Once a well-known security officer at West Blue, he was later expelled from the country for excessive violence in law enforcement. I didn't expect this guy to appear in the Holy Land. What do you want to do? Aren't you afraid of death? This question is in everyone's mind. There is really only one thing in the end. In response to the previous dispossession of the title of Shichibukai by Crocodile, let me also participate in the decision of Shichibukai's candidate. Lafayette twirled the crutches in his hand, still smiling on his face. It's just that this smile looks chilling. Hehe, you also want to be Shichibukai. Brother Mingo laughed. West Blue's small role can be compared to himself and the rest of Shichibukai. Of course not, I am here to recommend a man. Lafayette shook his head. A man. Everyone was curious about who Lafayette wanted to recommend. Report. Just then, a signal soldier appeared at the door. The heavy atmosphere of the meeting was interrupted. Shichibukai frowned and looked at the signal soldier with displeasure in his eyes. Just kidding, this is a Shichibukai meeting. To break in so brazenly is disrespectful to them. However, without waiting for them to speak, they saw Sengoku, who had been holding a straight face just now, and a trace of joy could not be concealed on his face. Even his breathing was a little heavier. See this scene. Shichibukai was surprised. They weren't the first day they met Sengoku, and when they saw Sengoku react this way. Then, the signal soldier came to Sengoku's side, bowed his head and whispered. The expression on Sengoku's face gradually turned into surprise, and he stood up abruptly. Suru, the meeting is temporarily entrusted to you. After Sengoku said this, he left without looking back. For the shichibukai meeting, which is about the balance of the sea, it seems to be completely non-existent. What's the situation? Seeing this, everyone in Shichibukai and Luffy were directly stunned. What was it that made Sengoku leave in a hurry? Is it more important than recruiting new Shichibukai? And, with 3 Shichibukai members in the room, it's unimaginable. Sengoku, this guy, doesn't he look down on us too much? Brother Ming laughed sadly. No one responded to his grievances. Because from the performance of Martial Marine, something very big must have happened to cause such a gaffe. It's just that if they want to break their minds, I'm afraid they can't think of it. It's all because of a guy named Roy. Marine Grand Staff Officer Vice Admiral naturally knows this very well. So immediately after Sengoku left, she took over as chairman. I'll chair the meeting and continue discussions on Shichibukai's candidates. There must be something very important about Sengoku's departure. In fact, I see that after Sengoku leaves, there is no need for the meeting. Ming Yin and Yang Strange. I can represent Sengoku, Suru said lightly. Cut. Brother Ming was very upset. If it were someone else, Brother Ming would be embarrassed on the spot. But facing the crane, Brother Ming could only sit honestly. Suru didn't just join Marine at the same time as Sengoku, Zephyr and Garp. In that year, he hunted down the Don Quixote pirates many times. Let Brother Ming be very embarrassed and often lead his subordinates to escape. Then listen to me. Lafayette had regained his smile and began to talk about the purpose of his visit. Just 10 minutes later, Sengoku, who controls the bamboo dragonfly, has reached Marineford. When he arrived at the door of the Roy Arsenal, the scene in front of him almost made him angry. All kinds of vice admiral have gathered here, blocking the gate. The soldiers who were originally in charge of guarding watched from afar. These vice admirals are not something they can stop. What's more, Vice Admiral didn't enter the arsenal, just stood in the doorway. Before Sengoku could curse, he discovered that even Garp, Momoshiki, and Shigu were here. Obviously, these 3 are role models in Vice Admiral, and they are the objects of everyone's admiration and learning. Now come here to join in the fun, worthy of Marine's cultivation. Sengoku felt like he was going to be angry and quickly took a few deep breaths before slowing down. What are you doing here? Spread it out for me. Sengoku growled. Everyone turned around, only to find that it was Sengoku who had arrived. He hurriedly made way for Sengoku to pass, but he didn't seem to leave. The annoying guy is coming. Garp muttered softly. This sentence was clearly heard by Sengoku. Garp, you also come to join in the fun. What does the advent of the lightsaber have to do with you? Sengoku clenched his fists. Looking at Sengoku's angry appearance, he wanted to strangle Garp, and his eyes spewed anger. Don't be angry, I just walked around, I don't know how I got here, anyway, standing at the gate doesn't violate military rules, right? Garp said with a playful smile. Sengoku was depressed, like a punch to cotton. The entrance to the arsenal is not a secret place, and there is indeed no problem standing here. But who doesn't know what Garp is here for? The only target is the lightsaber. Tell you, it's absolutely impossible to get a lightsaber just by staying here. Sengoku looked at everyone. Swept by this stern gaze, these vice admirals were all smiling awkwardly, but none of them really left. Joke, that's a lightsaber that kills everything. With it, even if they are punished, they are willing. After all, the power of lightsabers is enough to greatly improve their power. Marshal, at least assign me a knife, I don't have a suitable weapon right now. Doberman held his broken knife and stood up pitifully. Want a knife? There are many curry noodles on the island, so you can choose from them. Sengoku was expressionless. I'm talking about lightsabers. Without a powerful sword, my strength will drop a lot. Doberman's face turned ugly. In order to wait for the lightsaber, Doberman never equipped himself with a weapon. Sengoku sighed, already visible from Doberman's expression. For lightsabers, Doberman is determined to get it. This is the purest desire of swordsmanship, that is, the pursuit of more powerful weapons. Even if Doberman's famous knife was not cut off by a lightsaber, Doberman would have the same desire for lightsabers. Not only Doberman alone, but also the eyes of other vice admiral around him were also hot. Sengoku understood that if he didn't give everyone an explanation today, I was afraid that they would not leave easily. When I think of these high-level elites of Marine, they will have the urgent embarrassment they have today, completely disregarding their identity. Sengoku felt incredible. It was all because of Roy. After receiving the lightsaber, I will personally assign it according to your characteristics, position, and the degree of task, understand? Sengoku can only make promises to everyone here. With these words, these backbones of Marine dispersed. Only they did not go far, but hovered near the door. Sengoku stepped into the arsenal and felt a man chasing him behind him. Such an important matter, you alone will definitely be very hard, let me help you. Garp followed in Sengoku's footsteps. When you care about my hard work, you just want to watch the liveliness. Sengoku scolded. The average vice admiral might shiver when he sees Sengoku get angry. But Garp didn't care at all, grabbed Sengoku's shoulders and entered together, both decades-old friends. This threat was not taken to heart. Everything that happened outside the arsenal, Roy knew very well. The surveillance system Jarvis laid out around was far more advanced than the one Marine used. So he stood in the doorway of the office early. Marshal, Mr. Garp. Roy looked respectful. I'm sorry to let so many people gather here, and then I will increase security. Sengoku felt embarrassed. The arsenal that produces bamboo dragonflies and lightsabers should have the highest level of secrecy. Not to mention at the gate, no one can approach for several kilometers around. Sengoku plans to add more soldiers to stand guard outside the arsenal. It is forbidden for all idle people to enter, unless there is an order. Unlike this time, the soldiers had no orders to stop these vice admirals. Maybe someone will break into the factory and steal the lightsaber. Coupled with today's Lafayette, he was able to enter the conference room of the Holy Land. Marineford is not necessarily completely safe. It's okay, the seniors who won the lottery just want a more powerful weapon. Roy understood this and invited them in with a smile. Garp came to Roy's office for the first time and kept looking. Roy, you're playing here. Garp was surprised. In addition to the two old sofas, as well as Roy's desk. You can no longer see any other decorations in the room, or wine cabinets or the like. Marine does not prohibit drinking alcohol when it goes to work. Drinking alcohol is seen as a form of relaxation, as well as a way to release stress. Sailing on the sea for a long time, without releasing the pressure, will collapse. So most of the Marine officers would have wine coolers and the like in the room. Other people who don't like to drink will also list their favorite things. But here with Roy, his preferences are not visible. No money, Roy said with a serious look. When I traveled into this world, there was some mess in the office. However, in order to scrape together the research and development funds of the bamboo dragonfly, Roy directly sold all these things. Together with his own salary, this made up the first R&D funding. Obviously so much money has been given. Sengoku was surprised. Now it seems that so much research money, Roy is spent on research and development. A scientist who really does not think for himself. Good boy, you surprised me. Do you want to be my student? Garp even found that there was something in Roy that he appreciated. To be a Garp student, you don't really need talent or anything like that. Just make Garp feel good. Idiot, you also deserve to be Roy's teacher. Don't ruin our talented scientists at Marine. Sengoku couldn't help but scold again. Garp was embarrassed and said with a bow, I just see that Roy's strength is too poor and I want to teach him about combat. Quote, strength, Roy's scientific research is far more useful than you and I have done with Marine. Sengoku is convinced of this. That's true, too, Garp readily admitted. The people who can make Sengoku and Garp think this is probably the first person besides Vegapunk. Roy, the first lightsabers have already been produced, right? Sengoku then looked at Roy and asked. The communicator told Sengoku the news before. Yes, in addition to the lightsaber, the third batch of bamboo dragonflies has also been mass-produced, and this time it is 200. Roy nodded. The third batch of bamboo dragonflies was also completed at the same time, or 200. Both Sengoku and Garp were happy. Sengoku, I should give it to my husband this time. After all, my husband is also a Marine hero. Garp can't wait. The last time I snatched it from Sengoku, I was snatched back within 2 days. What to say this time? Garp also has to have his own bamboo dragonfly. Okay, I'll send you one. Sengoku was happy and readily agreed. This old boy seems to be unable to be immune to bamboo dragonflies, let alone other people. With the ability to fly, it is too attractive to people. 100 finished lightsabers have also been produced, but there is no capital for subsequent mass production. Roy helplessly stalls hands. Without follow-up funding, the automated workshop stops production from today. Sengoku naturally knows that deep down he likes it and is helpless. That's an exaggeration, and Sengoku has allocated nearly 4 billion to Roy so far. Spending so much money in a short period of time was unimaginable before. That's enough to reward a 4 emperors. Fortunately, Roy gave Marine the same quick and astounding return. Wait for the funding thing, let's take a look at the lightsaber first. Sengoku coughed dryly. In fact, if he could find funds, Sengoku would have happily allocated funds to Roy. Now there is only waiting for the effect after the lightsaber is actually equipped. By the way, the next batch of lightsabers can be further improved, not only limited to the sword as a weapon, but also can be made into spears, axes, frisbees, etc., and can also be made into whips, and no one can break free after being bound. Roy was gushing here, leaving both Garp and Sengoku dumbfounded. If this is the case, then the range of what a lightsaber can be equipped has expanded. Not just with a swordsman, any marine can be equipped. Can it be made into a boxing set? Garp's eyes shined. Yes, it's not difficult. Roy nodded. It is nothing more than changing the hilt of the sword into a fist sleeve, so that the light particles become attached to the fist sleeve. Roy was curious about such weapons and equipment as fists. Can you really play to the strengths of a lightsaber? You're all taking a back seat. What kind of weapon do you want? If I ask for it again, I will take back the bamboo dragonfly just now. Quote. Sengoku was upset. Lightsabers were for fighting, not for play. Just kidding, Garp said sarcastically, but he could only give up. In fact, in addition to the improvement of the lightsaber style, the new version of the lightsaber has a last resort. Roy continued. In times of crisis, lightsabers can emit cluster energy. The big move sent out by consuming energy at one time is so powerful that even Roy can't foresee it. This is not the original ability of the lightsaber. Instead, Roy and Jarvis discovered that the lightsaber had a place to improve its performance while making it. With each manufacturing, he has a deeper understanding of the principle of technological products, and naturally has some ideas of his own. That's the charm of technology. Similarly, so did Roy's assistant Jarvis. Just like the artificial intelligence of chess, it surpasses all human chess players after playing hundreds of millions of games against themselves. If you estimate conservatively, destroying a few warships is not a problem. Roy said very conservatively. Destroy several warships. Sengoku and Garp looked at each other, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Warships are not ordinary ships, they are extremely strong, and few warships are directly sunk. Of course, the price is that the cost of building warships is also very high. If you use a lightsaber to attack the opponent's pirate ship, wouldn't it be even more powerful than a cannon? In the minds of the two people, they have begun to make up various military uses. Instead of even making lightsabers, it is more direct to use this technique to make cannons. The only pity is that this trick can only be used once. I'll help you keep fighting for funding. The development of lightsabers continues. Sengoku gritted his teeth and said he would continue to support Roy. That's not in a hurry, let's take a look at the product first. Roy wasn't that urgent. Everything has a process, and it is useless to be in a hurry. Now with Sengoku helping me ask for money, I don't know how easy it is to save money on my own. Came to the warehouse with 2 people and pushed open the door. How is it empty? Sengoku looked at the neat warehouse with a puzzled face. This expression is just like the original Momoshiki. Inside the corner, Roy said, pointing inside the corner. A worn-out wooden box, as well as a sack. Is it all inside? Sengoku couldn't believe it. Marine spent more than 3 billion in the results, so casually placed in the corner. Well, 100 lightsabers and 200 bamboo dragonflies. Roy opened the wooden box and took out a sword hilt from it. The hilt has been improved and is no longer the shabby appearance of the previous sample. Made of fine steel, the light is shining cold. A moderately sized sword hilt, carved with a delicate spiral pattern, looks perfect like a work of art. Sengoku and Garp couldn't take their eyes off, but the hilt of the sword was so well made. Then the forging level of the lightsaber can only be higher. Duh. Roy pressed the switch and the sword popped out. Half a finger wide and 3 feet long. Slight energy fluctuations burst out on the sword body, making people feel the horror in it. Illuminated by the red light, Roy resembles Shinigami in the setting sun, full of oppression. Of course, this is not the coercion shown by Roy, and his strength is not up to this point. Just the fluctuation of the lightsaber is enough to make people feel the pressure. Ahem, how is the finished product? It's much better than before. Quote. Roy saw that the two people froze and said with a dry cough. So strong, this seems to be more perfect than the original sample. Sengoku was sincerely amazed. At the same time, I secretly rejoiced in my heart that fortunately, the original sample was wanted away by 5 elders. In this way, he can be equipped with a handful. Kindness. As a Marine Marshal, knowing a little swordsmanship is actually quite reasonable, right? Roy, how the hell are you made here? There are no people in your factory, I'm curious. Garp reacted and looked at Roy expectantly. Roy knew early on that the fact that there was no one in his factory would definitely be asked. Before, Sengoku respected himself and never asked. But Garp is different, he's straight. If you have any questions, you will say it immediately. It's confidential. Roy smiled lightly. Garp had a disappointed look on his face, but he didn't continue to ask. But since it was Mr. Garp who asked the question, then I can also say it. In fact, the production workshop has been transformed by me, and only one person needs to make it, which is also so that the secrets of lightsabers and bamboo dragonflies are not leaked. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble in the future, Roy still thought of a one-size-fits-all wording. Although I don't understand, I think it's very powerful, ha ha ha. Garp touched the back of his head and giggled. Garp itself is just a casual question, without the meaning of delving into it. Sengoku next to him was very concerned, and nodded silently after hearing Roy's words. I am very satisfied with Roy's production model, which ensures that the secret is not leaked. Unlike Vegapunk's team, they are limited to a certain amount of freedom, ensuring that Vegapunk's scientific work is in the hands of the world government. By the way, these lightsabers are better tested so as not to have defective products. Roy diverged. With Jarvis, the smart assistant, here, Roy is confident and not worried about production. It's just that this process still has to go. That's right, if there is a problem, it is best to repair it today, otherwise it will be a lot of trouble after it is issued. Sengoku agreed. So Sengoku brought in Vice Admiral from outside, including Doberman. Let them carry the box to the martial arts training ground, and by the way, empty the idle people and so on, and no one is allowed to watch. In less than 5 minutes, most of the Vice Admiral gathered in the martial arts training ground, including elite Vice Admirals such as Momoshiki. They are all looking forward to it, even for a long time. Roy took out a lightsaber and began to explain the performance of lightsabers in public. When turned on in normal times, the lightsaber does not consume any energy, only when slashing. Roy opened Shikai explained. The principle of a lightsaber is that energy is shot from the center lens of the hilt filled with continuous positive energy. The energy then folds back into a high-flow channel filled with negative energy. A superconductor converts the energy flowing back into storage. In this way, the lightsaber only consumes energy when the blade passes through the object. The blade does not release energy when it does not touch the object. A lightsaber can be used continuously for about 8 hours, and if the slashing item is stronger, the greater the energy consumption. Roy said, holding up his lightsaber. This is not Roy's judgment, but the time that Jarvis analyzed. Use for 8 hours. Vice Admiral nodded. This time was enough for them. Usually in a tough battle, it can last a day or even a few days. But that is in the case of conventional weapons, and it is necessary to fight with the opposite side. Nowadays, few weapons can block the power of the lightsaber, which greatly speeds up the time of battle. Wait, Roy, this lightsaber won't be a consumable, it will be scrapped when the energy is exhausted. Sengoku suddenly remembered this. Equipment that costs so much money is scrapped in just 8 hours. I'm afraid even 5 elders will have to assess whether the lightsaber is going to be mass-produced. After all, money doesn't come out of nowhere. Sengoku's words also made the vice admiral present nervous. If it is a weapon that will be scrapped, then I am afraid that I must cherish it extraordinarily. Of course not, you can send it back to me after the energy is exhausted, and it will replenish energy for you. Roy smiled slightly. In other words, the final decision on the lightsaber is his decision. Of course, for this, no one paid attention to it. As long as it can replenish the energy, this is enough. Even Sengoku, these Marines, feel that the need to replenish energy may not be a disadvantage. After all, in future military wars, once the lightsaber falls into the hands of pirates, then there is no need to worry about the pirates causing great damage. After a few hours of use, the lightsaber's energy is exhausted. At that time, only the hilt of the sword remains, and with their technology, they will definitely not be able to crack the mystery. Brother Roy is so sweet. Yes, in this way, even if it is lost or robbed, it will not cause losses to our side. Ha ha ha, it's worthy of Roy, it's too thoughtful. Without Roy explaining, Sengoku and other Marine bigwigs present came out to help him explain. All right, it doesn't seem to be unreasonable. Roy thought to himself, and then continued to experiment with the lightsaber. At this time, on the martial arts training ground, there were already a lot of thick and heavy alloys, and the degree of hardness could be several levels higher than ordinary steel. Roy holds a lightsaber and tests it himself. One by one, the blades popped out and slashed down towards the steel. Each lightsaber easily submerged into the steel, leaving sharp cuts one after another. This scene shocked the vice admirals who had never seen the power of lightsabers before. No wonder it is called a subversive weapon, attracting so many people to scramble, this power is too strong. And Vice Admiral, who had seen the lightsaber demonstration before, was equally shocked to see this scene again. Especially with so many mass-manufactured lightsabers in front of them, the spiritual impact caused is far from being comparable to a lightsaber. 100 lightsabers, it took less than 10 minutes to test. The vice admirals who were placed on the ground by Roy very casually were particularly distressed. Such a good weapon should be properly enshrined. It's just that now that the lightsaber hasn't been assigned, they can't have an opinion on it. Roy, do bamboo dragonflies need to be tested? Sengoku asked. This is not needed, the production process of bamboo dragonflies is different, but I see that many people here should not have seen bamboo dragonflies, let me show you. Roy said as he opened the sack and placed a bamboo dragonfly on his head. Bamboo dragonfly, Marine's latest equipment that caused the world to shake. It was in that sack. An ordinary sack. Logically speaking, shouldn't it be strictly protected and put in some kind of safe or something? The generals present were all dumbfounded. It is estimated that no one will believe what he sees today as a touted capital in the future. Subversive weapons are placed haphazardly on the ground, and cross-era aircraft are packed in sacks. They even began to wonder if something was wrong with their eyes. Bamboo dragonflies do not have the trouble of charging, they will automatically absorb solar energy storage. As long as they are placed in a place with sunlight, they can be fully charged in about 24 hours. Roy can only use the simplest words to make everyone understand. Fortunately, the general's understanding of technology is basically zero, and they are all a group of guys who are full of brains fighting. There is no curiosity as to why the little bamboo dragonfly can fly for so long, what is the core technology and so on. After the explanation, Roy also performed flying, flipping in the air and emergency stops. The ability of bamboo dragonflies is even more exaggerated than in the newspapers. I think it's Colonel Roy's ability to handle. With such fast flight ability, what warship do you need? It is said that 300 bamboo dragonflies have been produced this time, and we should have a share for everyone. Vice Admiral looked longingly at Roy, who was churning in the air. This flying ability is far more powerful than the moonwalk in the 6 types. During the battle, moonwalk was naturally more rapid. But on the eve of the battle, the bamboo dragonfly is undoubtedly the best auxiliary work, and there is no one suitable for all-terrain military use. And it's not large, storing heaven-defying. This advantage is simply an all-round auxiliary equipment. Marshal, the handover is over, I still have things, so I will leave first. After landing, Roy said goodbye to Sengoku. He also has to rush back to develop fairy beans, which is the first priority. Although the factory is run by Jarvis, it still needs to do it himself in terms of material preparation. Well, your business is the most important, hurry up. Sengoku didn't hold on. After Roy left, Sengoku faced everyone. Remember, after the distribution, the existence of the lightsaber cannot be easily exposed, except when it is difficult to defeat enemies. Sengoku said in a warning tone. Everyone nodded in understanding. Of course, such a powerful strategic weapon cannot be easily exposed to the world. They also hope to use lightsabers as a trick at the bottom of the box, which can change the tide of battle at critical moments. Fortunately, the hilt of the sword is convenient to hide inside wide clothes, so you don't have to worry about being exposed. Now I start the assignment. Sengoku was named one by one. But everyone who uses a sword is assigned a lightsaber. After receiving their own lightsabers, these people all showed satisfied smirks. Doberman, you should also get an ordinary knife to carry with you, a swordsman without a knife, like what? Sengoku didn't forget to remind Doberman. These days, I wander around without a knife, and I may have noticed the abnormality by someone who cares. Sengoku's concerns are justified, but unfortunately late. Brother Ming had already noticed that something was wrong, but the lack of information made Brother Ming only suspicious. Yes, Doberman quickly bowed his head and agreed. Now that Doberman has also been assigned a lightsaber, he has no need to show everyone that he lacks weapons. Marshal, there are still a lot of lightsabers left, so assign one to us as well. Dalmesia shouted. Dalmesia, owner of the morphological ability of the canine fruit Barley Town. He is good at the 6 styles, which fuses into his orc form. More agility and strength. It also has the ferocity and cunning of a carnivore, as well as claws and teeth that tear everything apart. It has always been a proud place for Dalmesia. Not only Dalmesia, but also other vice admirals who were not assigned lightsabers were also looking forward to it. This time is limited to swordsmanship masters, and after the lightsaber is improved, it will create a style that suits you. Sengoku has been planning for this for a long time. Hearing Sengoku say this, Dalmesia and the others did not say anything more. They all know that Sengoku always does what he says and never paints flatbread. It's just that I didn't get the lightsaber at the first time, and I was inevitably disappointed in my heart. After arranging everything, Sengoku took Momoshiki and other vice admiral elites back to the World Government building on the Red Line. Because the bamboo dragonfly has long been exposed, Sengoku and others began to use it in an honest manner. Marshal, it is no longer meaningful to continue to cover the secret of the bamboo dragonfly, it is better to disclose it directly. On the way, Momoshiki also suggested. Well, I also have this idea, when the shichibukai meeting is over, I will inform the world. Sengoku nodded. In this way, the existence of the bamboo dragonfly can deter all forces. Strengthen Marine's image in the eyes of the world. And warn those pirates to always keep an eye on the top of their heads. The heavenly punishment of justice will fall from the sky at any time. As for the lightsaber, now that secrecy is done well, there is no need to show it. No one will expose their whole cards all at once. Holy Site Mariajoy, World Government Building. Conference room. Brother Ming was already waiting restlessly. This anxiety is not the anger of being left here. Instead, Mingo realized that Sengoku must be dealing with more important things, most likely related to subversive weapons. He has no clues, which is the reason for Brother Ming's anxiety. Enough. It's so boring here, I'm going to take a spin myself. Brother Ming pretended to get up with a scowl on his face. Sit down. Remember who you are. Sengoku's voice came from the doorway. When Brother Ming saw Sengoku, he immediately sat back down, muttering something in his mouth. If you don't pay attention to it every time, I'm afraid there won't be 3 people attending the next meeting. You don't want to give up your shichibukai identity, after all, you did something very excessive to become one of shichibukai. Sengoku's words are clearly threatening. Mingo became shichibukai, but the world government begged him. Instead, Ming forcibly joined shichibukai under the threat of robbing the heavenly gold. More than the world government, Mingo needed shichibukai's identity. Brother Ming turned his head away and said nothing more. His eyes were always on the vice admirals who followed Sengoku back. All of them looked excited, and the joy on their faces had not yet faded. So Brother Ming couldn't help but frown, which meant that Marine must have major good news. Not only Brother Ming, but Bear and Hawkeye have long noticed. It's just that they don't care as much about this as Brother Min. Suru, how did we talk after I left? Sengoku began the questioning process. Suru's gaze turned to Lafayette and told Sengoku what had happened. In fact, after Sengoku left, Mingo and the others lost interest. Only Lafayette expressed the purpose of his visit. What he just said, the man who recommended. It's Blackbeard. Blackbeard, I remember being the man from the Whitebeard ship, now being hunted down by the Whitebeard pirates. Sengoku nodded silently, unable to see his joy or anger. That's right, staying in the Whitebeard pirates so far, this person has not been rewarded. Suru nodded. This concludes the exchange at the Shichibukai meeting. Without Sengoku, several Shichibukai did not express any opinion. Our captain will soon become famous in the sea, after he takes off the head of a pirate with a bounty of more than 100 million. Lafayette was apprehensive. Just from Sengoku's face, Lafayette couldn't tell the other party's attitude. Hee, just a pirate with a bounty of more than 100 million can already become a Shichibukai. Mingo let out a disdainful laugh. For Shichibukai, that's not worth mentioning at all. Don't look at Shichibukai, neither Crocodile nor Moria's bounty is high. But in the past, they made quite a splash in New World. They are all people who dare to challenge the four emperors. Blackbeard's target is definitely not an ordinary pirate, so please wait and see. A smile appeared on Lafayette's face. Today's Blackbeard has targeted Straw Hat Luffy. Taking down Luffy's head in the Straw Hat is equivalent to maintaining Marine's dignity. After all, Luffy beat Crocodile, and sooner or later Marine will have to figure it out. Whoever becomes Shichibukai, I'm not interested. Mingo leaned back in his chair and rested his feet on the conference table. Seeing the dissatisfied gazes cast by Vice Admiral around him, Brother Mingo didn't care. If you want to be Shichibukai, you have to see how Blackbeard performs. Sengoku nodded and said. Lafayette breathed a sigh of relief. It was enough to have this sentence from Sengoku. The other Shichibukai didn't seem to care at all who would take Crocodile's place. The name 7 Warlords of the Sea is likely to make people think that the 7 are on the same front. This is not the case, they are all just using the name of the world government. The relationship between the 7 people is not even a nod of the head. I'm interested in a pirate and want to know what news about him now. Hawkeye spoke. Who? Sengoku frowned. Having defeated Crocodile's Straw Hat Luffy, I have a relationship with him at East Blue. Hawkeye recalls the scene from that time. The first time he met Luffy, Hawkeye just felt that Luffy would be a good captain. Because he was able to bring an ambitious swordsman like Zoro to submit. And Hawkeye and Redhead have long been friends for many years, and Redheads often mention Luffy. I came to Mariajoy to know the latest developments in Luffy. Yes, I'll give you Luffy's current information later. Sengoku looked at Hawkeye with some skepticism. The world's #1 swordsman really just came here to find out the intelligence of Straw Hat Luffy. Sengoku felt that everything was better to be cautious, and he would send someone to follow the Shichibukai closely. Make sure they don't spy on any useful intelligence. Just Straw Hat Luffy's words, that Sengoku doesn't mind telling Hawkeye. Whether Hawkeye wanted to cut the Straw Hat Luffy, or was just interested. That's all about pirates, and it has nothing to do with Marine. The meeting quickly dispersed, and Hawkeye was the first to leave the Holy Land. Sengoku was closely related to Mingo's movements, and Mingo grinded for a long time, and finally left Mariajoy helplessly. Banero Island. Blackbeard and the others were embarrassed and drenched all over. Thief, ha ha ha, we didn't die, we survived. Blackbeard burst out laughing. A few hours ago, they were hunting down Straw Hat Luffy. It turned out to be one step late and could only witness the Straw Hat Luffy group of people, traveling to the sky through the updraft. However, they capsized because of the huge whirlpool generated by the current, and they fell into the sea. Fortunately, he finally drifted to this Banero Island and saved his life. As a capable person, it is no wonder that Blackbeard is so happy to survive the shipwreck. Captain, but we lost the trace of Luffy the Straw Hat, and those guys won't really fly to Sky Island. Badger said, pointing to the sky. Who knows, but Sky Island does exist. Blackbeard knows this. So what do we do? Looking for a way to get on Sky Island too. Badgers looked bitter. When he thought of rising currents, he felt a sense of fear. As one of the ways to get to Sky Island, updrafts are actually a type of natural disaster. Near the sea area of Gaia Island, there is a large hollow deeper than the bottom of the sea. Geothermal heat produces steam, and excessive pressure causes seafloor to erupt. Rushing huge currents into the sky is the so-called rising current. The frequency is 5 times a month, and the location is very random. If you are lucky, you can reach Sky Island, and if you are unlucky, you will all be killed. Nope, a guy like Straw Hat Luffy won't settle down, we just have to wait quietly, and soon he'll make a big move. Blackbeard smirked. Marineford, Marine Headquarters. Vice Admiral also decided to return to the New World G6 branch. As a marine base deep into the New World, the G6 branch is surrounded by several pirate forces. Marine is powerless to surround them, but it will not allow the G6 branch base to be destroyed, which means Marine's influence in this sea area. Once the base is gone, then Marine's face is somewhere. Burning Mountain was ordered to return to the Marine Headquarters base. Not only did I get lightsabers and bamboo dragonflies, but I also won the allocation of some bamboo dragonflies to my subordinates. The purpose is to strengthen the G6 branch. Hehe, I made a lot of money this time. Burning Mountain was excited along the way, and he couldn't stop smiling on his face. With a cigar in the corner of his mouth, he couldn't wait to return to the G6 branch with his subordinates. Now with the bamboo dragonfly and lightsaber, Fire Mountain is more confident stationed in the G6 branch. He even pondered whether to eliminate some small pirates around him for deterrence. Let them know that Marine of the G6 branch will not just guard the branch base. However, as soon as I walked out of the Marine headquarters, I was greeted by an acquaintance in the square, who also greeted him with a dangerous face. Vice Admiral, long time no see. It's just Rear Admiral's Vigor. It's Vigor, the last time we met was a year ago. I heard that your strength is stronger now, and it is only a matter of time before you become Vice Admiral. Haoyao Mountain is smiling and very enthusiastic. Vigor's strength is strong, so even if it's just Rear Admiral, it has long been recognized by Vice Admiral, and it is only a matter of time before it becomes Vice Admiral. And Vigor has always been left and right, and he is very popular in Marine. It's not like some Marine called Mad Dog, it's not welcome. So even if the strength is very strong, few people like it. Where, far less than you seniors. Vigord said respectfully. Seeing the satisfied look on the Burning Mountain, Vigil was overjoyed. According to the intelligence that Vigord collected during his years in undercover Marine, the Burning Mountain in front of him is a character trait of Marine. In addition to having a strong sense of justice, it is a great respect for elders. Therefore, he also showed humility, and easily gained the favor of the Burning Mountain. It's all for justice. We are all like-minded partners. It's gratifying to burn the mountain. With a descendant like Vigor, Marine's tradition will not be broken. By the way, how did Vice Admiral get back to Marine headquarters? Is there any trouble? Vigor asked in surprise. In fact, Vigor had already discovered that a large number of Vice Admiral had returned to Marine headquarters from all over the Grand Line today. Vigor was eager to figure out what was going on. As a result, many places were blocked, and at his level, they could not enter. My heart has long been on fire. Nothing troublesome, just a new piece of equipment called Bamboo Dragonfly. Burning Mountain has received a notification that the matter of the Bamboo Dragonfly has been decrypted. Then there is nothing to hide. Bamboo Dragonfly, that Marine secret gear in the newspaper. Vigor's heart was shocked, and he did not expect to easily get information from Burning Mountain. Of course, it is now equipped on a large scale, and a new world frontier base like ours is a priority. Burning Mountain rummaged through his pocket and took out a bamboo dragonfly with it overhead. Can this thing really fly? Vigord put on a puzzled look. When I saw it for the first time, I couldn't believe it, but this thing can indeed fly, and the Scientific Research and Development Department is still powerful. Burning Mountain couldn't help but marvel. Sengoku ordered that Roy's name should not be mentioned anywhere. Burning Mountain felt a pity that such a great genius could not be known to the world. In the mind of Burning Mountain, with just 2 inventions, Roy is already an equal to Vegapunk. After all, Vegapunk's scientific research results, Burning Mountain has not seen much. It's just that there are many places where Vegapunk's research base is. There are actually few that can really equip Marine to increase combat effectiveness. Now that the bamboo dragonfly has been decrypted, then I will show you. The Burning Mountain slowly flew up. Although it is the first time to use a bamboo dragonfly, Fire Burning Mountain has been able to master it smoothly. That's awesome. Vigor pretended to be shocked and envious. By the way, Haoyao Mountain explained to Vigor how to use bamboo dragonflies and working hours. I believe that the popularity of bamboo dragonflies will be higher in the near future, and you will definitely be able to assign them at that time. I left first. Burning Mountain smiled and took his leave, flying towards the port. It wasn't until the Burning Mountain flew away that Vigor's expression gradually became gloomy. Just now, Vigor keenly noticed when he took out the bamboo dragonfly in the Burning Mountain. On the other side of his waist, a metal stick hangs. Good material, beautiful shape. Thinking that the bamboo dragonflies have allocated a lot to the Burning Mountain, the legendary subversive weapon may also be allocated to the Burning Mountain. Could this metal stick be a subversive weapon? This possibility is not excluded. The shape of the bamboo dragonfly is very simple, but it has amazing functions. So does this stick also contain secrets? The shape is peculiar, maybe this is the invention style of the inventor Roy. In particular, Vigor had judged that many Marine Vice Admiral had returned to headquarters this time. It's definitely more than just handing out bamboo dragonflies. It is quite possible that subversive weapons have been secretly equipped. Vigor's gaze gazed in the direction of the port and found that it was all but the Burning Mountain. Dozens of figures also flew in the air. Marine is no longer what it used to be. Grand Line, New World Ideographic Period. Dreza Ross. Brother Ming lay in the office and closed his eyes, quite bored. I wanted to conduct an intelligence search in Mariajoy, but everywhere I went, there were more than a dozen people watching me. Brother Ming felt uncomfortable, and even wanted to find a place to drink, but he was not interested. Return directly to Drezaro's. Booloo brew, brew brew. At this moment, a small telephone worm in his arms rang. Brother Ming immediately opened his eyes and smiled. This phone bug is used by Mingo and Vigor's one-line communication and will not be eavesdropped by Marine. On the other end of the phone, Vigor told Mingo his conjecture. Very good. Good work on you. Brother Ming hung up the phone with satisfaction. Although this is only speculation, it is most likely true. Intelligence work itself does not require evidence, and many times it is the result of analysis. Mingo believes that Vigor's judgment is at least 50% more likely. That's enough. Brother Ming rolled over and picked up the phone on his desk. Told Kaido everything. Wano Kuni Ideographic Period. Subversive weapons have been secretly equipped, so fast. Guy on the other end of the phone was equally shocked. It has been less than a few days since the last news of the existence of subversive weapons. Kaido didn't expect that Brother Ming already had news. Be careful yourself, Marine's target is most likely you. Brother Ming reminded. Ooh blah. Kaido sneered and ended the call. Then, Ghost Island. At Kaido's side, Mitsura heard the phone call in its entirety. Subversive weapons really exist. Jack's expression sank, and a trace of coldness flashed in his blood-red eyes. Sure enough, this was for Kaido boss. Bamboo dragonflies really exist. There are such amazing flying machines in the world. Quinn was also obsessed with Mingo's description of the bamboo dragonfly. Super flight speed and time, only need solar energy to recharge. Breaking the science and technology in Quinn's previous cognition. Now Quinn has only one idea, and that is to desperately get the bamboo dragonfly. Then take it apart and take a good look at what technology is used inside. If we go to the G6 branch and capture the bamboo dragonfly, can you copy it? Ember asked Quinn. Once beasts pirates, such a powerful flying machine can be obtained. Then their combat effectiveness will rise to a terrifying level. Imitation. I wasn't sure until I saw the real thing. Quinn said with a cigar in his mouth. If before the advent of the bamboo dragonfly, someone said that this gadget could make people fly, he would have slapped it twice. But now, everything is upside down. Since Marine can be built, you can at least imitate it to a certain extent. After all, you are a colleague of Vegapunk. The gaze under the ember mask stared at Quinn and said lightly, unless, of course, you are too wasteful. Quote. You, lousy, didn't want to cooperate with Vegapunk and left voluntarily. Don't slander Uncle Ben's scientific research ability. Hearing Ember's taunting words, Quinn glared angrily, his face full of displeasure. And in Quinn's heart, he vaguely felt Roy, the inventor of the bamboo dragonfly. The technology mastered seems to be completely different from Vegapunk, or rather, the existing technology. Vegapunk claims to be 500 years ahead of human intelligence. So how did this Roy bypass the existing scientific system? Quinn is completely unimaginable about this. Anyway, Marine dares to target me, and I must make them regret it. Kaido picked up the wine gourd and took a sip, smiling cruelly. Hearing this, the three plagues were very excited, and it had been a long time since Kaido showed a fierce look. I'll go prepare the ship. Ember volunteered. No need, I'll go alone. Kaido waved his hand and walked away with the wine gourd. After speaking, he stood up directly and walked to the position of the windowsill. Rumble. In the next second, the burly and huge body jumped up. In the air, the person suddenly turned into a huge green dragon of thousands of meters, emitting a burst of dragon groans, and directly soared into the sky. In an instant, it had disappeared into the clouds. Below the island of ghosts, the three plagues looked at each other, shocked and confused. Boss Kaido seemed genuinely furious. However, it is no wonder that whether it is bamboo dragonflies or so-called subversive weapons, after the analysis of many intelligences, it seems that they are all aimed at their beasts' pirates. This is unbearable for Kaido. The Marine of the G6 branch is miserable, and they will become the Asura hell where Kaido vents his anger. Although all intelligence points to the existence of Marine's invention, just in case, there may be Marine's trap, I will follow and take a look. Ember's gaze became cold. His expression under the mask was solemn, and then he followed Kaido and turned into a pterosaur and flew into the sky. Leaving Jack and Quinn glaring dryly. What are we going to do? Jack asked dumbly. What else can I do? Just keep Wano-kuni. Quinn said angrily. If even they leave, who will guard Wano-kuni? At the same time, the news of Marine's announcement of bamboo dragonflies was also learned around the world. Cross-era aircraft, pirate's nightmare. Marine describes bamboo dragonflies this way. However, Marine did not announce the performance of the bamboo dragonfly, but only released some photos of equipped bamboo dragonfly soldiers flying high in the air. Left to the people of the world, infinite imagination. New World G6, Marine's large base. After returning to the base, Burning Mountain immediately gathered all the elite soldiers in the base. According to the strength of each person, 20 bamboo dragonflies are distributed. Burning Mountain plans to model Marine's previous special operation at East Blue and form a squad that can skillfully use bamboo dragonflies. Not only let them carry firearms, but also artillery with little weight and so on. In this way, this squad has the ability to directly destroy pirates in the air. Marine Vice Admiral's rights are large, second only to Admiral. Vice Admiral, stationed in the base, is the supreme commander here. Even if Admiral arrives, he needs to order Vice Admiral to be able to mobilize the soldiers in the base. The elite soldiers who were selected had long heard of the bamboo dragonfly, and they were all pleasantly surprised when they were assigned at this time. Being able to soar freely in the sky, not everyone qualifies. After a few days, the results of the elite squad had already begun to bear fruit. Not only does everyone control the flying method of the bamboo dragonfly, but they can also carry a certain weight of weapons. After all, the control of bamboo dragonflies is too simple. Not to mention Marine's elite warriors, even an ordinary person can control the bamboo dragonfly to fly in an instant. But Marine trains to cooperate with military operations. So, the project and the operation are slightly different. However, it took only a few days to master it all. This day, Fire Mountain was satisfied, so he asked all the soldiers to gather on the base square. How about it, the new equipment I brought back from Marine headquarters? Hoa Yao Shan took a cigar and asked the deputy of the base with a smile. Vice Admiral, who can take away so many bamboo dragonflies, is not many people, and he is only allocated 20 because of the danger of New World. The rest of the world, as well as the Grand Line's marine base, is countless. Hundreds of bamboo dragonflies were distributed. It's like a drop of water, falling into a lake, without a ripple. The G6 base occupies 20 bamboo dragonflies. Burning Mountain does have the capital of Tsunere. Prove his capabilities and the importance of the G6 base. Vice Admiral, that's awesome, our new equipment. With the bamboo dragonfly, there is no difficulty that can stop us from eradicating the pirates. Justice will win. The soldiers were excited. Especially after meeting the elite soldiers, the combat effectiveness after equipping the bamboo dragonfly. It greatly boosted their morale. Burning Mountain is very satisfied with the scene in front of him, which is also the effect Sengoku wants to achieve. Then next, it's time to solve the Great Wave Pirates. Burning Mountain smiled slightly. Hearing the name of the Great Wave Pirate Group, the soldiers immediately gritted their teeth. The Great Wave Pirate Group is a 3,000-person pirate group entrenched on an island not far from the G6 branch. Marine's advantage lies in more powerful equipment, as well as tough warships. However, the Burning Mountain was delayed because there was a country on the island occupied by the giant wave pirates, and the surrounding sea was boundless. When warships enter, they must be careful. Not to mention, you have to take into account the attacks of the pirates holding the stronghold. The appearance of bamboo dragonflies gave the Fire Mountain the opportunity. The furious sea will not be able to stop their attack. Burning Mountain decided to lead this elite force and take advantage of the night to attack. As long as the cadres are solved, the remaining pirates will collapse without a fight. Destroy the Great Wave Pirates. Let those guys see what is called heavenly justice. Hang all the pirates. The soldiers were excited and waved their arms. As Marine, the people who hate it the most are the pirates who plunder. Many of them were persecuted by pirates and lost their homes and loved ones. Good. Prepare your warship now. The time for justice has arrived. Hao Yao Shan looked at the time, it was already afternoon. When everything is ready, you can leave in the evening. Yes. The soldiers shouted loudly that they were going to prepare for war. The order was issued, and Marine Base, a fortress of war, was immediately operational. The soldiers acted in an orderly manner. Artillery, warships, medical and other supplies were transported to the warships in the port. Less than half an hour. 3 warships, armed with 3,000 soldiers, hundreds of guns, and several shells and other firearms. Lord Vice Admiral, everything is ready. At this time, the deputy of the base came to the front and reported to Vice Admiral. Yes, Huo Yaoshan was holding a cigarette, and the gentle smile that always hung on his face seemed a little cold at this time. Invisible slaughter pervaded this sky. Go. The voice fell. As soon as the Fire Mountain threw the cloak of justice behind it, he was about to step towards the port terminal. But right now, the originally clear sky suddenly darkened. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.